Whoa, legendary!
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Celestial Grand Show, and it looks like they haven't listened to our request to turn off the Chinese commentators, so we're going to go with no sound once again. Anyway, how's it going, Derek?
I am doing fantastically, my friend. This is, weirdly enough, the third time that I'm casting on Tempo Storm within 24 hours. Obviously, with Lorinda doing this very tournament the previous day, yesterday, and then switching back over to Standard a few hours ago, and then a short sleep, and now back to Wild once again for the last day of Phase 1 of the Celestial Grand Show.
Yeah, I know exactly how you feel. I did kind of a similar thing last week when I did Star Ladder, and then I did the Japan Major, and that ended up being like 10 hours of casting all in one. Then by the end, I was about to do a third day of Star Ladder, and I'm like,
that would literally have killed you.
Yeah, I'm like, can someone replace me, please? Yeah. I'm dying. But yeah, it was. I was listening back to. I know we're getting super off topic, but I was listening to my cast of the third day of Star Ladder. And it actually wasn't as bad as I remember it being. I just remember having absolutely no energy.
If you do say so yourself.
Yeah, and exactly. Yeah, and Lothar was completely just like bringing the energy up for me, which was
right.
Awesome,
yeah, sure.
But anyway, this is the Celestial Grand Show. Forget about those other tournaments. And as you saw on the screen there, $1,000 per match. So there's a little bit on the line for the players today, but even if there wasn't, still you want to get $1,000, right? So there's certainly incentive to win here.
Exactly. No matter how you're doing, whether you're Xixo, I believe, has played all his matches and has pretty much guaranteed himself a spot in Shanghai, or Reynad, who's doing significantly worse, yet to take a series, I believe.
Yeah.
Or at least doing very poorly if he is. Even if you don't feel you're going to get to Shanghai for the second phase of this Celestial Grand Show, you want to be winning your series just so you can pick up $1,000.
Yeah, and the thing is, the way this has turned out, unfortunately, is 3 players from Europe had to drop out, that being RDU, Thijs, and Kolento, because of the tournament that they have to play today, the HCT Europe. But they dropped out, so it turns out that 4 out of the 5 players are going to go to Shanghai. So only one person is going to drop out, and Reynad seems to be the one right now. He can come back. It's possible. If he wins today with a good margin of victory, and I believe if Lovelychook loses with a pretty bad margin of victory, then Reynad can overtake him. And Lovelychook kind of has double incentive to win here, because obviously you don't want to fall to 5th for obvious reasons. Excuse me, but also he could jump, I think, Zhangbo to 3rd place, and that's kind of a big deal. You'd rather, I'm assuming this is true, but may not be, but I'm assuming that when they go to Shanghai, they'll have the 1st versus 4th, and 2nd versus 3rd, and so you'd rather play Eloise than Xixo most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah. I think that's usually a fair statement. However, in this tournament at least, Eloise has been doing pretty well. Finished top of her bracket in the first half of this tournament a few months ago, and has been doing decently well so far at the very least.
Right. Well, not even just talking about Eloise or Xixo or whatever. You'd rather play the 2nd place person than the 1st place person most of the time. But
exactly.
Yeah. So those are the matches today. By the way, it's going to be Reynad versus Zhangbo, followed by Lovelychook versus Eloise. As you can see here, Xixo is done, and he is actually not guaranteed to get first. Kind of weird, right? Because if Lovelychook defeats Eloise, then he sets up a match with Eloise later on. So it's kind of like helping himself get that matchup, right? So
it's interesting,
Whereas if he loses to Eloise, then Eloise could overtake Xixo for the #1 spot there, as you see our matches here.
Yeah, it's definitely not set, but as you can see with the massive game difference, where Reynad is on -9, I think that's set, we're going to have to see a decisive victory from Reynad and a decisive loss from Lovelychook. The stars will definitely have to align if Reynad wants to make it to the next phase.
Did you catch Lovelychook's plus or minus?
-2, I believe.
-2. So 7, it's kind of doable.
Yeah.
Wait, no, maybe not. It's kind of hard, actually.
Well, you need to remember there's going to have to be a little bit of luck involved if you're going to get that high, which means Reynad is 100% out of this tournament.
Right. Okay. I was getting confused. My head was in the first part where it was like best of 15 or best of 17 or something like that. So Reynad is definitely out.
No, if he can get 4-0 and Eloise could get 4-0 as well, it's
right,
because then he'd be up for and Lovelychook would be down 4. It wouldn't have to even be that decisive. Like, he could get 4-0 and Eloise could get 4-1. Like, it just has to be, a difference of 7, I believe, altogether in order to bring him up. But even if that were to happen, it seems unlikely because Reynad has brought more of an anti-control lineup with Jade Druid and Quest Rogue, whereas Zhangbo does not seem to have a particularly controlling lineup.
Right. And Reynad obviously going for, kind of the next level strategy in a way, right? Where if people are countering the aggro, and then you counter those decks that counter the aggro in a way. But unfortunately, did not work out for him here, as a lot of players just went with the best decks available to them, right? Just the most oppressive aggro they could find. And when they couldn't go with a full aggro lineup, they would go for, just decks that have proven to be successful in Wild. For instance, Zhangbo going the Freeze Mage.
Yeah, exactly. In a lot of ways, this phase of the tournament being in Wild is kind of just a Hearthstone history lesson. We're seeing some of the most oppressive and dominant decks throughout the history of Hearthstone coming back, but with a few nice additions tossed in there as well. Obviously, Pirate Warrior now souped up with the addition of Ship's Cannon and other decks like Aggro Shaman, Xixo sticking Firefly in them as well, just pushing them to be even more powerful. And then you've got the ridiculous Freeze Mage with Mad Scientists and stuff like that.
It's also interesting how, I think you mentioned this, that there's just so many cards available that it's hard to fit them all in, and you try to fit all of the broken cards throughout the generations into one deck, and it's like, oh, well, I have to take out Consecration. Feel too good. Or I have to take out some other high impact card. Like, for instance, you saw Xixo. You kind of saw that a bit of like the schizophrenia, right, with some of these decks, like the lots of one-ofs and Xixo's Jade Druid, for instance, with like one Raven Idol, things like that.
Right. Yeah.
And it's like, I think I need to put at least one of these cards in, right? But anyway, we do have the bans here. Reynad going with the ban of Warrior, and Zhangbo going with the ban onto the Mage. By the way, these games were played, I believe, 2 days ago, so they were played around the time that we were starting our first broadcast. So
yes, that's right. This is live. Me and D2 are talking to you. Well, at least from my end, a horrible time in the morning. But these games were pre-recorded, so any kind of weird things you see. Well, I suppose Xixo's the only one competing at HCT, so you won't be seeing any of these players in 2 places at once. But if Eloise suddenly starts streaming, well, she's also competing. She's not actually a superwoman who can stream and play at the same time without even it seeming like she is.
I would believe it. I would
believe it. Yeah. Definitely. If anyone can do it, it's Mum.
All right. So, like we mentioned, Reynad obviously, even if he can't get a great score, he still wants to win this for the $1,000. Maybe he can throw that some money to us for casting his games. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. So, first and foremost, Reynad wants to win, and he wants to win either 4-1 or 4-0, preferably 4-0.
Yes. Yeah.
And but if he can't get the 4-0, then he wants to just win the match, obviously. So, on the side of Zhangbo, he could fall below Lovelychook in the standings, which he doesn't want to do because, well, first of all, he wants the $1,000 as well, but also he doesn't want to fall below Lovelychook because you want to place off against the second place person rather than the first place person. So here we go, Aggro Druid, kind of pretty much Aggro Druid. It's a very board flood kill you Druid versus the Jade Druid, and we know who this favors.
Yes, this is kind of the way we've seen Druid go in this Wild format. Obviously, the only 2 real versions you're going to be running with are these aggro Egg Druid and the classic Jade Druid. You could go for some kind of a Malagos variant, but I think given the oppressive power of these aggressive decks, you're probably not going to be going with that strategy. And overall, so far, massive sample size, I know. Over the past 2 days, aggro Druid has definitely been the dominant decks.
Well, Reynad gets an amazing start here, able to get the Fandral out onto the field. He's basically using it as, just your standard 4-mana 3/5, just to get that on the field and start contesting the board. He doesn't really care if he gets any Fandral synergy, though that would be nice, but he just needs to find a way to start picking away at Zhangbo's board, and obviously having 5 health is going to be a huge benefit for him.
Yeah, I guess his thinking is, although getting Aya Blackport out nice and early, which he could have gone with if he'd gone for simply Wild Growth into Innovator on turn 3, given that you've got no other Jade cards currently in hand or anywhere in sight necessarily, you don't really want to be spending all that mana and investment going just for an Eye of Blackpool, because although it is powerful, bringing in just a 1/1 and a 2/2 is probably not quite enough if you're just passing turns 1 and 2. And here, Reynad making the play to not even go for the wild growth, but rather absolutely and completely solidify his board.
Right, it makes sense in a way, right? He's giving up a couple of mana to do this in this turn and the next turn, but he's making sure that my Fangel will not die to any shenanigans here, right? No matter what.
Yes.
And, you know, he can just Wild Growth next turn. The way his hand is constructed, he goes Wild Growth into Nourish. So, certainly makes sense in that regard. But
and I guess the thing he's specifically playing around is 4 damage on 3 mana, with this minion on board is going to be Savage Roar. But I wonder if Zhangbo would even have gone with that line of play, because it feels like there's a decent chance that Reynad's minion would actually have survived at that point.
Right. It just, I mean, it had everything to do with the mana considerations, right? If he had a 4 mana play this turn just now, then perhaps he would have just taken a chance and gone with the Wild Growth.
Right.
Just looking at his hands, like, you know, there's not a whole lot of reason to fit in an extra mana so that I can hero power. It's like, do I need the hero power? Not really.
I can see that. I can see it indeed. So at this point, Zhangbo thinking, technically I'm getting 3/2 of stats if I go for the minion, but it's one of those situations where the extra benefit you get from giving the +1/+1 is so great that it might be worth going for it, even though you're getting slightly less stats, because then obviously you can take out the Fangel with just the egg and leaving the egg to survive, which usually you don't necessarily want to do. You just want to get the Nerubian out as quickly as possible, but you've got almost the same amount of attack on just the egg as you would on the actual Nerubian. However, doesn't think it's worth it this way.
Yeah, he could save the Power of the Wild for, you know, perhaps maybe he finds a way to buff up some living mana, maybe 4 of those treants.
Yes,
something like that, or maybe he gets a pirate off the top of his deck so that he can. Oh, there's a pirate, and we can get patches buffed as well. And I think Zhangbo should just do that. Looking at it from this perspective, right? Because he gets a 2/3, he gets a free trade onto the Drake. He doesn't have to kill off his own Ruby, and it turns into a 5/1. And then he has a 2/3 Bloodsoul Corsair. Then he has a 2/2 Patches charging in. This seems. What do you think? I think that would be the best play, right?
I think probably still living mana is a decent bet. There's nothing that the Druid can really do, to be honest, because you don't run Primordial Drake in this wild format. It seems oh, it's too early for that word. Unanimously, people are cutting that card from their deck.
It's a card in the deck.
Yeah, Primordial Drake has left in this transition to wild. However, he thinks that it's worth it to save it and go for this line of play. It means that you're not getting the Power of the Wild onto the living mana, but obviously, unless you can get some kind of weird manipulation with the mana where you don't have enough room to summon all the treants, it seems unlikely that you would be able to cast Power of the Wild the turn after you go for the living mana here. And this way, it sets up 2 options, I guess. If your board sticks, you're going to Savage Roar and deal an absolute load of damage, and if it doesn't, you go for living mana.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you mentioned, just the Power of the Wild being 2 turns away, you don't really want to be thinking about 2 turns from now as the aggro Druid. You want to kill them as quickly as possible. Yeah, you can't.
Sounds way too complicated.
Exactly. Well, it's not that it's complicated. You just don't want to give your opponent time, right? You're like, well,
right.
Unless you have this absolute master plan where everything works out. But every turn has to be as powerful as you can possibly make it when you're trying to kill someone.
Of course.
So, Reynad, he's looking at the Ayachan, but kind of wants to start dealing with this board right now. Rather than just take a boatload of damage from something like a Savage Roar, like you mentioned. If he doesn't play Aya now, is what he's thinking, he's never going to be able to play Aya ever again. Yeah. So that's what I mean, sometimes you have to just eat it and say, well, I guess I'm not playing Aya ever again then. But this is a lot of damage. Oh, my goodness. So on board, 7, 9, 11. And then this is +4, so that's 15. And then +10 is 25.
Whoa.
26 actually, because you have the hero power as well. You can fit that in.
Right.
So
you just go for that 100%.
There's the possibility of like your opponent getting the second Earthen Scales if Reynad is running that in his deck, and then
Yeah, but then
something.
you've still got a massive board. There's no board clears. You've already seen an Azure Drake, and it would have to be something like Azure Drake Innovate Swipe. And even then, if you go for the Mark of the Lotus, your board becomes even more difficult to deal with.
Well, okay, think about
Pretty nuts.
here's something that I think could save Reynad, right? You have the Jade Behemoth, and then
Hmm.
Innervate, and then or you don't need Innervate actually. You can just Jade Behemoth and then put the Earthen Scales on the Aya, and you take two
Okay.
minions off the board, and then you're kind of safe. So yeah, I
You can only
think.
take one minion off the board though, because the little Jade Golem, the one doesn't take anything out. Take anything out.
Oh right, because of the Mark of the Lotus, right? Well, this is pretty good too. There's a lot of stuff
Yeah.
on the board. There's nothing that
Oh.
Reynad can really do about this. There's only there's only so much that he can kill. He does
Yeah.
get the Jade Behemoth, but let's see. So he's gonna take out obviously one of the 3/4s, put the Jade Behemoth on the board. Savage is a ton of damage. I don't think I even need to count this because it seems like it's over.
Yeah. The annoying thing is for Reynad, you can own a hand where you draw a. We managed to get Fandral down on turn one. You can only call it so bad, to be honest, because that's obviously a pretty good play to get. But after that, his draws were pretty rubbish. Two Nourishes are absolutely unplayable in this matchup. It is way, way, way too fast, the aggro druid. So you're just not going to have the time to play those. And that's kind of almost a
Even for
worse hand
mana, right?
because,
Even for mana,
yeah,
you
exactly.
just like just you spending one turn to do so. Yeah.
Exactly, you don't have time because then often you're only going to be able to hit in a hero power or a wrath after the fact. And this kind of hand, like Reynad can't really go on Twitter and moan about how he's never lucky because he got a Fandral down on turn one. It's almost worse than if he'd just drawn the whole top end of his deck right at the start.
Yeah. Well,
Because at least then you could baby rage.
yeah, well, that was just an unfortunate situation there for Reynad, and it's just so difficult to deal with that deck as the Druid, or as the Jade Druid, because
Yes.
of you just can't kill the Nerubian egg and then the Nerubian behind it, and then there's just limited amount of taunts you can throw in the way. And just in general, that deck seems so powerful in the wild. But we're getting on to the next one, and Zhangbo going with his just put strong stuff in there Paladin.
I think that's a fantastic title for it. This just feels like souped up mid-range paladin of old. Certain players have just basically typed in 2015 Hearthpone or something like that and just got with basically the straight up deck list that we ran around the TGT era when some of the decks were at their most powerful. Like I believe Lovelychook's Secret Paladin is
Yeah.
pretty much card for card just what you remember from the old days. But here with this mid-range Paladin, we've got all the classic cards that you know and love. Minibot, the Muster for Battle, things like that that were truly devastating in the early game. But it's also got a couple of new additions. You've got Sunkeeper Tarim, you've got Spike Ridge Steed, the Fireflies as well, able to get you off to a really nice aggressive start.
Yeah, Sunkeeper Tarim, just thinking about, how people didn't realize what it actually was, like the implications of buffing your side and a lot of times, bringing down your opponent's side.
Yeah.
It's like a quartermaster and an AoE Keeper of Oldemon in the same card. So
Yeah.
it's just absolutely insane to think about, and it kind of goes whenever you see a card outperform people's expectations. It always goes to show that whenever you see a new kind of a new thing, right? Because even though we've seen keepers, this Sunkeeper Tarim effect before, we didn't see it
Yes.
exactly in this manner, and so it just goes back to how you evaluate cards, right? It's like if you've never seen something before, it's really you should probably wait a few moments before immediately saying this is not going to be too good because you really have no clue.
Exactly, yeah. And it was really interesting because at the start of Angora, it kind of felt like it wasn't that powerful. People weren't really playing mid-range Paladin. It was like, I can't remember, a week and a half into it when people finally realized, okay, mid-range Paladin's quite good. And then, Murlocs in this are also pretty good. And then, a few more Murlocs are also really good in this.
Well, we see Reynad going for the Nourish and the Wrath here, going for the Nourish for mana because he has the gadgets in hand, likely to pick up some cards. Unfortunately, he has to give up his coin in order to do so. And the reason why he felt it necessary to play the Wrath, even though he had Fandral in hand to maybe get a draw, is that the Sword of Darkshire was just so threatening there on the side of Zhangbo because of some things like Muster for Battle, etc.
Yeah, it's kind of potentially less threatening in this lineup than it could have been against a player like Eloise, who runs the Stand Against Darkness, and all the dude-generating cards that she possibly can. Whereas in this one, it's only the Muster for Battles and the Lost in the Jungles that actually make Silverhand recruits. But working out pretty nicely for Zhangbo. He had the option to go for the Blessing of Kings on the previous turn, which maybe would have prompted a mulch from Reynad, which would have been a pretty nice tempo swing in Reynad's favour. So working out quite nicely this way, because even with the Azure Drake, you just don't quite have the mana or the damage from Azure Drake's swipe to finish everything off nicely. So it looks like the mulch is going to come down now, even after the Divine Shield has been removed. So some of the bigger threats that are going to come down later on from Zhangbo in Dr. Boom or Tyrion Forgering, Spike Ridge Steeded minions are not going to be able to be mulched. Oh, actually, I'm going to contradict myself. Reynad is running 2 mulches.
Interesting. Okay, so Zhangbo's just going to go for this play right here with his Sunkeeper, getting a couple Spectre Spiders out. He gets the Vilefin Inquisitor off of the mulch, which typically would be an okay card, but he actually has cards that buff up the Silverhand Recruits, so you can't really play that card unless he just feels like he needs the tempo.
That is straight up a 1-mana 1/3 with a downside, which is pretty unfortunate because that card is absolutely insane in the standard format, to say the least.
Alright, well, Reynad, a little bit of a comeback here. He's able to use the Fandral plus the Wrath and the Mulch to take out the Sunkeeper, and now has an Innervate to his name if he wants to play that Gadsden, but good old Dr. 7 on time.
Here we go. Anything that Reynad plays is probably going to be very swiftly taken out. There's that other mulch, which is very, very nice indeed, because even though, as I've said, there are other big minions in the deck, like the Tyrion Forgering, that is not in hand. And you need to use this as quickly as possible to guarantee yourself the ability to keep up on the board and not take too much damage from your minions. But the pickup of the second Auctioneer becomes a little bit more interesting as to how you play your spells, but I guess you'd rather get the Wild Growth out now because the hero power, it's all right, but it's not doing that much. These Boombots probably going to die off pretty soon anyway.
Exactly. And, you know, typically, well, he even gets a 2/2 out of it this way as well. By playing this. But, yeah, you just want to get your get that Nourish, basically, while you can, since that's what it is. I'm forgetting the name of this card, the one that gets buffed when your opponent has Death Rattles.
Ooh, the Little Exorcist.
Little Exorcist sounds about right. But remember when Blizzard printed this card, thinking
so funny, wasn't it?
It was like, this might be a good
worry,
counter.
Guys.
It's like, I don't know about that
Undertaker's sorted. This'll do it.
Oh my god.
Yeah, nice try. And what was the other one? It was like the Scarlet Defender or something like that.
Scarlet,
that dealt 2 damage.
Scarlet Purifier, and it's like
Scarlet Purifier.
Doesn't this just activate his Nerubian egg? Like, this is horrible.
That was exactly it. Oh my god, nice try, Ben.
Yeah, but they've gotten so much better with actually, developing the cards nowadays.
Yeah, because they make their tech cards like ridiculous in Galacta Crawler. Like they just put premium stats on it and think, right, okay, this will finally work.
All right, well, Loatheb hitting the board just to show up the Gadsden. We've seen this before, right? It's like, well, I could kill the Gadsden, or I could just not kill the Gadsden and make it basically impotent.
I guess that's the thing, because you're obviously running the risk of, if your opponent clears your board, you might not be in a position to clear off the Gadget Sand, but with spells costing 5 more a piece, it's very unlikely that they will clear your board, so you can be fairly safe in the assumption that you will clear it off on the following turn. And with that Boombot coming down on a pretty fantastic minion, this Consecrate is looking absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to go for it right off the bat so that he can get some good trades with this Boombot, perhaps take out something else. The Aya Death Rattle goes off after. So if the Boombot goes in, it can actually hit the newly formed J, which I believe is a 5/5. So
it can't hit it because it
Oh yeah, sorry.
Because it goes off after.
Stuff is hard. Yeah.
You were so close. You got the right order, and then you just said the complete wrong thing to follow up.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty good at doing that. Anyway. Well, Zhangbo trying to finish out his turn right now. This Keeper of Oldemon, it's difficult to know when to use it because it's difficult in general when you're playing against Jade Druid or just Jade anything, right? Because you're sitting there thinking like, well, I want to, nullify some sort of 9/9 or whatever, right? But if you wait too long and just let your opponent, by not getting the tempo earlier on, by playing the Keeper of Oldemon, You're allowing your opponent to get that place in the first place because you're not getting the tempo from it.
And here he does just end up sacrificing away his Lothep, which is pretty risky because that was actually pretty far and away the highest attack minion he has on board or in hand. So it would have been very nice to start pressuring out the Paladin, or the Druid, sorry, and get his health total down to a much more juicy point for you so you can finish him off with your Spike-Steeded minions or your I suppose the Blessing of the King's gone now, but you can start applying some decent pressure at least. And now that the second Gadgetzan Auctioneer has come down, we see no immediate threat, no immediate potential to remove it. And also, it's important to mention, no true silvers available for Zhangbo.
Nice Murloc hero power. I just gives up. Gives up. He's like, this is too much. It's like the Karma Guards are coming back to get me. Oh my goodness. That was...
What were you going to do there? You've got no comeback mechanics. You do not run equality. You don't even run true silver in the deck in order to immediately remove that Gadgetzan Auctioneer. And that just feels exactly like what you were saying. There just isn't enough room in this Paladin deck to put in all the good cards.
Like true silver champion, right? It's like
exactly.
It's like just cut true silver. Remember back in the day when people were playing Secret Paladin, like, I guess we just don't run true silver. We have too many weapons. Yep. I'd rather have Cog Hammer.
Yeah.
That's funny. That was kind of a crazy match. We were kind of going on about other stuff, but Reynad went from facing down, a Blessing of King's mini bot and, having not a whole lot to do, and, facing down, Sunkeeper Taram and Dr. Boom, and then he won the game. Yeah. 3 turns later. It's like...
It turns out that so you're putting 2 mulches in your deck that's very clearly targeting some kind of a more control-y deck. That would be really nice against the Reno lock that you can see. But also just using it in that fashion where you're using it to gain tempo and keep up on the board works out fantastically because he gave his opponent what turned out to be a fantastic minion for Reynad in it denying the Silver Hand hero power at all and giving him a whole bunch of really crappy Murlocs.
Well, we're coming into this matchup, which is good for Zhangbo, having queued this one up here, going with the, the Freeze Mage against Reynad's quirky Quest Rogue.
So this is kind of interestingly, Reynad went on Twitter after the first day saying, these are probably the worst decks I've ever submitted to a tournament, don't expect much. And I responded saying, well, I liked your Paladin deck, but yeah, that Quest Rogue was a bit jank basically. And he responded saying, "Oh, that was the only good one." And then I felt like an idiot because I basically insulted the one deck he likes. However, I have to kind of disagree with him. He's cutting Stone Tusk Boars from this list. He's running 2 Swashbucklers instead. What I'm kind of guessing is that once you actually complete the quest, you're going to be struggling to find stuff to do after the fact. Like killing your opponent is actually going to be fairly difficult because you're not running that many chargers at all. It's only the Southsea deckhands and the Patches the Pirates, and outside of that you're going to be playing fairly passively after that fact.
I'm going to go ahead and refresh our feed here just so that we can get things going back on. So they're looking at us, Derek, just in case you don't know.
I can see, don't worry. I'm always ready.
Alright, so looks like we're okay here.
So it looks like we're getting off to a pretty good start for Zhangbo, to say the least. You've got the one-man scientist, and you've got the secret out of the way from that. And it looks like he's on par to get an ice barrier in addition to that ice block. And Reynad, it looks like he's going to be trying to complete his quest in the cheapest manner possible with this target dummy. You can play it, bounce it back, and then play it again, and bounce it back once again, which looks like he's on par to complete the quest on the following turn if he wants to. Not play it, but complete it nonetheless.
Oh, okay, he's going to use the backstab here. I was about to say, what do you think about the decision to play the Brewmaster? But goes for the higher attack minion, so you can put a bit more pressure on right now. And on the side of Zhangbo, a lot of options here, actually.
Yeah, a lot of options. I think you just do your own solitary freeze mage thing where you just play out, you get your card draw going as quickly as possible, because the thing is, freeze is very good against Quest Rogue because they can have a whole bunch of massive minions, but if you freeze them, it obviously doesn't matter how high their attack value is, they can't attack. But you're always afraid of charge minions because they can just come in from hand. But given the fact that Reynad is running a fewer amount than we see in standard, Zhangbo actually has even less to worry about. So if he can save these freeze effects, get a good amount of use from them after the quest is completed, he'll probably find himself in a very decent position to just finish his opponent off with burn if he finds the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, and Zhangbo going for the Primordial Glyph here, he was leaning toward that Doomsayer, and I like his decision not to do so, because that's one way to deal with Rogue. You just run them out of stuff because you play, Freeze plus Doomsayer, they can't kill it, and all of a sudden you're in a fantastic spot because they just run out of stuff. Reynad does have the Coldlight Oracle, which is pretty massive as far as keeping the fuel burning. But all right, so he's gonna pull the trigger on the Coldlight Oracle now.
So he does burn one card from the Freeze Mage. Unfortunately, the Alexstrasza has been burned, which is definitely one of the most crucial cards that you can get. Looking at Zhangbo's list, what's he got? He does run the Antonidas, but that probably won't be too much of a worry in this matchup because you don't really need to generate too much more damage. You probably have enough just from your Fireballs, Frostbolts, Ice Lances, things like that already, especially now that you have the Alexstrasza already in hand.
All right, well, Reynad will complete the quest and be able to play it the following turn, and has the dagger in play for one of the few chargers in his deck. So, yeah, he could have a lot of damage this coming turn. And for Zhangbo, he does have the freeze plus Doomsayer, however. Reynad could kill off the Doomsayer with, I believe he has patches in his deck still, so...
Right, yep, good point. And that seems like that's very possibly what he's going to go for, because on this turn, you do have enough room. You can just play the target dummy, play the crystal core, and then bring out patches with the Salty deckhand, and that's actually an incredibly powerful turn. 35 damage then available for you on board, which actually, interestingly enough, isn't enough to pop the block somehow.
Right. Just gonna take out the Doomsayer right now, obviously. And he's gonna attack in. Certainly makes sense, and has plenty of time to re-dagger. It's kind of funny because he could just vanish all his stuff back into his hand and have even more charge damage. One of the few times where you vanish your own board.
I guess when I said that Reynad has the potential to simply run out of stuff to do after you've completed the quest, that's not going to be the case if you're running and you're drawing your Coldlight Oracles. It's going to give you way more potential to play a whole bunch of stuff after you've completed the quest. But it also has the downside of getting your opponent closer and closer to what they're trying to do. And against a Freeze Mage in particular, that's incredibly scary because the more card Zhangbo gets, the much, much higher survivability he has. Any freeze effect from here until turn 9 is absolutely fantastic. He just needs to delay that block pop by 1-2 more turns, and he'll be in a fantastic spot.
All right, taking a look at Zhangbo's list here, he does not run Flame Strike. So Reynad had the opportunity to finish his own board, but I think he would kill off his own patches. Everything else would stay alive because it would still allow for 6 cards to go in hand. But there's no Flame Strike, so Reynad's not really too worried about his board dying, and not enough mana to go for the Blood Mage plus second Blizzard.
So didn't want to go with the Meteor here. It was kind of interesting because with the Meteor, you can just take out both charge minions straight away. But I guess he's thinking with the Medivh's Valet, I can do that anyway. Absolutely correctly destroying both the charge minions so they can't be bounced back and played once again to deliver some kind of a surprise lethal. But this has the downside instead of the Meteor of quite significantly reducing the amount of damage you can deliver from hand. Prior to this, he had enough to kill his opponent after Alexstrasza on turn 10. However, having said that, the Ice Block would probably have already been popped, so maybe he wouldn't have been able to play those Medivh's Valets. So it was correct just to get them out of the way right now.
Yeah, they are going to get taken out here, though. Reynad does get an Effigy, which doesn't really... It's not the greatest because you're not getting a very high...
It's just a 5/5, yeah.
Right. However, you do put kind of the fear into your opponent, right? Maybe they think it's Ice Block. So,
very true.
All right, so Reynad's just going to load up here. He has, plenty of refill in his hand. Even if somehow this board gets killed, he has, a few 5/5s in his hand, and can, obviously the Novice Engineer draws for more, things like that. So Zhangbo under a lot of pressure, and the swiftness with which Reynad was able to complete the quest has certainly put Zhangbo under a lot of pressure here. Just to be redundant.
Yeah, look, Yeah, looking pretty nice here for Reynad. But if he can find, as I said, any kind of freeze effect, now that he's used the Arcane Intellect, it would have to be Frost Nova because there wouldn't be the mana for Doomsayer. Things were looking, oh, for the Blizzard, sorry. Things are looking all right for Zhangbo. Just, they would be if he could just stall this for one more turn because then you have the Ice Block unpopped going into your Alex Straza turn. But in this position, it looks like that is simply not going to happen. You could go for Frostbolt and Ice Lance on two separate minions to technically keep you from not getting your block popped. But then after that fact, it feels so rough because you're just massively destroying the amount of damage that you can deliver.
Well, Effigy comes out here, and like you mentioned, turns into yet another 5/5. And that ends up being really damaging here for Zhangbo as he's facing down 26 damage on board. Let's see if Reynad can pick up a charger. Prep is... I don't know how useful that is. So, but actually, let's see. What if Reynad just goes all face, puts 26 damage in, Prep vanish, and then you just play Mad Bomber, bounce the Bomber, play the Mad Bomber, bounce the Bomber, and just see if it can get there.
I like your thinking. It's creative play.
Or you can just Swashbuckler or Fireball. You could also do that.
Right, yeah. I think that might be maybe the better play. But even then, you've got so much stuff on board. You haven't seen a freeze effect so far, which you definitely would have seen. But it seems from Reynad's perspective, the play is to bounce stuff back. You don't burn any cards now that you've got the prep, and you have plenty of mana to just start throwing stuff out. The notion that Reynad had the potential to run out of steam is seemingly absolutely ridiculous.
I was thinking about correcting you then. I'm like, he has a lot of card draw, and the Swashbuckler
does have a lot.
Make a lot of stuff, but
it's true. But is that really what you want to be doing as quest rogue? If you had a whole bunch of Stone Tusk boars, maybe Zhangbo would just be dead already, and he wouldn't have had a chance to kill you with Alex Straza.
Right. The funny thing, Reynad actually picks up the Kazakus off of the Swashbuckler. He's been drawing through his deck so quickly, he might be able to use that. Which it would be useful, if Zhangbo found a way, because Zhangbo's Ice Block didn't get popped, and so maybe Reynad, is it active? If it is active, he can get armor. Maybe no, it's not active, unfortunately.
No. So looking at the things from Zhangbo's perspective, you've got 12 damage, 13 with 2 fireballs and a ping. Your block will be popped this turn, and your Alex Straza will be killed, but you can guarantee yourself to draw the second ice block with the Arcanologist, given that only one ice barrier is run in the deck. And then after that point, you just are praying that you find some form of damage to finish off your opponent. And I think it basically just comes down to Frostbolt. We've seen both Medivh's Valets come down already, and I can't remember. Have we seen both Frostbolts? It's definitely one.
Yeah, I'm struggling to remember as well. It looks like Reynad's going to go ahead and keep alive his Swashbucklers in case he can somehow... he's going to bounce him now to see if he can't pick up something to help him out as far as healing is concerned. He was cycling through his deck as hard as he could, but unfortunately got 2 zombie chows off of his prep mimic pod. Flame Cannon is not going to work here. Going to go for yet another bounce. Running out of time. Not sure if he has the mana to even help himself at this point, even if he gets something.
When you're saying... Yeah, when you're saying looking for healing things, that basically means Ice Block and Counterspell, I think, is the only real things he can get to protect him against what the mage is doing. Just throwing out the Arcane Blast there, Arcane Explosion, so as not to burn any kind of cards from his hand. The Ice Block will be drawn here from Zhangbo, but looking potentially a little bit too expensive. You can just unload that Fireball off to face. But I guess with this line of play, what are you doing? You're setting up for Fireball, Ping on the following turn. Oh, you're setting up for Blood Mage Thalnos draw into lethal this way, aren't you?
Well, he has...
Oh, no, you have Blood Mage Thalnos.
Yeah, he has Thalnos.
You have it in hand.
Yeah, he has Thalnos double Fireball next turn.
So that's it.
He's thinking about playing the Acolyte, but he might go into Fatigue, potentially, if Reynad has an exact way to make him draw 3. I can't see his... I don't know exactly how many cards he has left, but that might be a consideration. So I think that's why he didn't play the Acolyte.
That's definitely a consideration because, as we can see here, if Reynad had picked up that all-important Cold Light Oracle,
he can get armor from the Kazakus here if he picks up, this draws into a duplicate. Does not get it, so that looks like game.
Wow.
The Spellstopper is not going to do anything.
So, I guess I said that Zhangbo was looking to set
Oh,
up.
he's gonna vanish. He's actually gonna vanish here just to get back Swashbuckler, and he kind of just has to, right? How
Does he
many?
remember the order? I'm not sure if you'll get back Swashbuckler.
Yeah, maybe not. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, he does get the Swashbuckler. Okay.
Oh, you get
And
the
he's
left.
3 mana left. He can get a secret. Potion of Polymorph.
Oh, that gets the Thalnos.
Oh, it does. That actually helps. I thought it was
No
gonna be a
way.
bluff. I thought it was gonna be a bluff, but it is gonna get the Thalnos, unless Zhangbo.
Oh my
Wow.
god, that does it. He's won.
Get sheeped.
That is unbelievable.
Wow. And there's nothing. It's not like Zhangbo could have done anything about it, right? He's gonna die next turn
No.
anyway. There's no ice block, so.
This was your only out. Oh my god, the clutch potion of polymorph that makes that 1 damage point difference. Zhangbo could have gone Fireball ping. That simply wouldn't have
And
been
there's the
enough.
Frostbolt. The
There's
next card is the
Frostbolt.
Frostbolt.
Oh my lord. Oh.
Wow.
Reynad, you lucky so and so. I never thought
No,
I'd
but
say it,
he
but
played it perfectly though. He
did. Yeah,
because-
absolutely fair play to him.
First of all, he was cycling as hard as possible, as soon as possible, right? And like into his deck, not just for healing effects from the Swashbucklers, but also trying to activate the Kazakus as well. And he was just cycling every single turn. Just that's all he was thinking about. And for instance, that one turn when he picked up the Arcane Blast, it was a really big deal. I think that the Swashbuckler was the second card. I may be incorrect here, but it's possible that he actually would have burned the Swashbuckler and not been able to get the Potion of Polymorph if he hadn't dumped the Arcane Blast from his hand.
Wow. One thing that you could potentially debate with Reynad there is that he should have been cycling his Novice Engineers rather than his Swashbucklers, because obviously it worked out for him in the end, picking up the Potion of Polymorph, but you have the dual benefit of playing the Novice Engineers instead of you're getting closer to activating that Kazakus, and you're also getting closer to that Cold Light Oracle, which you could have used to burn your opponent and make them fatigue through the ice block, which obviously doesn't activate on their turn.
I'm pretty sure he already used both Cold
Oh,
Light
did he use both of them?
Yeah, he had them early on in his hand. So.
Right. Sorry, I do apologize. Okay, so I guess overall it's probably right to go for the Swashbucklers then.
Yeah, it was just basically, how likely it was for him to activate the Kazakus there. The thing with Kazakus as well is that when you play Kazakus, that's your entire turn, because you go for the 5-mana potion and try to get the armor.
Right.
So that wouldn't be such a bad thing. Anyway, this next match going to be, looks like the Demon Reynad, I think this is, from Reynad here, and going off against the Freeze Mage that we just saw.
Reynad running the combo demon look, running a whole bunch of different stuff in it, obviously with the Leroy Power Overwhelming Faceless combo, as well as the triple demon bad boy combo in Jiraxxus, Mal'Ganis, and Cruel the Unshackled.
Well, Zhangbo getting a lot of damage in already, and can you let us know what healing is in Reynad's deck other than Reno?
Let's have a look. He's got the obvious Reno. He also has Antique Healbot, and he has Mistress of Mixtures. Gluttonous Ooze obviously won't be getting any healing in this. So it is Reno, Jiraxxus, Kazakus, Healbot, Mistress of Mixtures, kind of Mal'Ganis as well. So we've got arguably 6 healing options in the deck, which is a lot.
Yeah, it is a lot, but he's already pretty far down, and he has none of those in his hand at the moment.
He's got Jiraxxus and Mal'Ganis. I'm counting 2 of those as healing cards.
Yeah, true. Mal'Ganis is basically healed for 7.
Yeah.
Unless you get a Doomsayer off.
Exactly. So here the duplicate coming down for Zhangbo, which means if this is killed off, that is 6 more damage, which is really, really scary for Reynad. And if he doesn't kill it off, then it could just keep chipping away to face.
What do you think about the ping on the Imp here? I like the ping to face. I don't think that 1 damage actually matters. Well, I guess it's 1 damage over maybe several turns, but still.
And, I mean, what you're setting up for is getting that to face as quickly as possible, because it doesn't look like you're going to need Alex Straza unless Reno Jackson comes down. And if you do manage to bait the Reno Jackson before Alex Straza, you're like, fine, go for it, mate. That means then I can Alex Straza you afterwards and bring you right back down to this halfway health total, which is absolutely fantastic for Zhangbo.
Zhangbo looks like he's just going to go for Naked Doomsayer. No Frost Nova here.
Ooh,
Ooh. Yeah, you're looking pretty good there, Doomsayer.
Hearthstone After Dark.
Don't even have your Frost Nova on. No, but... no, anyway. So, he goes for this because he wants to save the Frost Nova for a bit of stall in the future.
Wow.
Is going to commit the Mediz Valet just to get the mana out as well. And here's the big consideration for if you're Reynad, right? Even if you had Reno in hand, it feels really bad to Reno in this spot. I mean, not specifically here, but from this health total, because
this is it.
Sorry?
Sorry to interrupt you there, but this is lethal that Zhangbo is setting up by playing this minion here. This is with the secret activated. You can go Frostbolt, Mediz Valet, Ice Lance, win the game.
And he has enough mana to do so. So, GG, turn 7. You usually don't get turn 7 lethal from the Freeze Mage. Usually they're stalling out and doing a bunch of random stuff, just trying to hold off their opponent. But, yeah, just burst them down with minions and spells here from Zhangbo. So, that's not a game you typically see.
It is not indeed. And I guess, if you're getting a... Oh.
That's not you. Those are the deck lists.
Those are the deck lists. I'm glad you're replacing me with something far more informative. But, given that Zhangbo got a pretty good draw in getting all those damage spells early on, he correctly realized you don't have to go for Alexstrasza. One of the early lessons that you learn as a Freeze Mage player is that you can't be too rigid in your game plan. You have to know when to just start firing off stuff to face. And as I've said, even if there was the Reno Jackson in hand, which allowed Reynad to get all the way back up to 30 health, you then have the potential to go with the traditional Freeze Mage game plan of playing Alexstrasza and bursting them down after that fact.
This is why a lot of players started to realize that Freeze Mage was favored against Reno. And at the start, people were like, "Wait, you have Reno? How's that possible? You have you have only so much damage from the Freeze Mage, and you have Reno freaking Jackson, right, to heal all the way back to full." But it's just that Freeze Mage players got better, learned how to play the matchup. And it was win-win there for Zhangbo. Even if he didn't win from the damage, even if some, Reynad used Reno there, and he's like, okay, you had to Reno before I even Alexstrasza used.
Right. That's exactly it. This is going to be a very interesting matchup, though. Zhangbo with a pretty greedy-looking shaman here with the N'Zoth control package. And I don't know if you remember, on the first day, he kind of messed up. He kind of messed it up with this deck, denying himself a Sneed's Old Shredder with the N'Zoth because he had too much room on the board. And actually, once again yesterday, Zhangbo messed up this deck. I'm trying to remember exactly what it was that he did, but it was something to do once again with having the board too full, and he wasn't able to get all the minions he needed. Oh no, what it was he played double Ancestral Spirit on a Sylvanas and then killed it off, but he didn't have enough room on the board, so he only got back one Sylvanas. And he lost the game because of it. He has thrown 2 of these games with this deck.
Oh, Zhangbo. A very experienced aggro player, but on the control side, sometimes not so much. But,
yeah, struggles with counting all the way up to the staggering heights of 7.
All right, well, Reynad just throws out that Hellfire, kind of realizing that it's not going to be that useful in this particular matchup. But that is one of his board clears that he's just thrown away, and decided that wasn't worth it going for something like a coin Belcher, but is going to go for the coin Emperor now, which is kind of like just playing 8 coins for the rest of your hand.
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. Throwing out the Hellfire just to avoid burning a card, I think, was definitely a very nice play because, as you've said, just not going to be that useful in the matchup. Getting some of those totems out of the way is nice as well, just to make sure your opponent can't get any kind of value out of them. Obviously, Bloodlust and Flame Tongue Totem aren't being run in this deck, but you never know. There's always some kind of crazy shenanigans that you can get with those totems. And now the Hex looks like it's going to be the play for Zhangbo. You're not using it on a particularly high health or attack minion. So I wouldn't actually hate seeing the Lightning Bolt being used instead on this one, given that we run Cruel, Jaraxxus, Mal'Ganis, Mountain Giant, Twilight Drake. There's so many minions that you really want to hex in this deck.
And Reynad has a ton of cards in hand, so
he does indeed.
He might have that, the very next turn, which it would be very difficult for Zhangbo to deal with. By the way, Mountain Giant 12 mana initially, so I believe Devolve doesn't do anything to it.
It does not.
By the way, I just find it funny that Zhangbo, he far-sighted into an Intentional Knowledge. So a 2-card combo, which amounts to 5 mana Arcane Intellect. It's that's a good one, right?
I guess so.
Or a Solemn Vigil for its full amount, right? All right, well, Froggy is going to get in there and start taking down fools.
Yeah, obviously, little bit awkward for Reynad because he's not able to get out the
Eesh.
perfect amount. He would obviously much, much rather have Mortal Coil there for 0 mana and drawing you a card at the same time. And getting the Dark Peddler there is pretty rough indeed.
That's literally the worst card in his deck, isn't it? Unless there's
Really?
unless there's some really good battle cry that he would have lost out on. As far as just
Mistress and Mixtures,
yeah, but
that would have
but he
been good
wants,
for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
He wants the healing from Mistress and Mixers.
Doomsayer, potentially. Basically, that was pretty much the worst you can get.
Right.
Twilight Drake potentially was worse, actually.
Yeah. So, something like a battle cry. It's missing on a battle cry that you wanted would be the only thing that was worse than that. Well,
Poor,
Alazio,
to say the least, though.
Yeah, very, very low on the roll there. So Zhangbo picks up Halazil, gonna just play that out in the field for a little bit of tempo.
This is so far a game where both players are realizing the cards which are not valuable in this matchup and simply throwing them out. The Hellfire coming down from Reynad because he realizes you probably don't need board clears all too much, and the Halazil coming down from Zhangbo because you realize you just need the minion on board much more than you need the healing. Reynad going for another go off the Deathlord here, picks up Anti-Healbot, which is arguably the second or third worst minion you can pull from your deck. You would really like to get the Battle Cry later on from that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, all that aside, Reynad did go for the tempo. Obviously, the Siphon Soul can be very valuable on the large minions of Zhangbo in the future, but just trying to set himself up for potentially Jiraxis this next turn, even if it does harm himself in the while he's doing it. Just being able to put that pressure on your opponent and prevent them from ever having this massive N'Zoth. Reynad feels like he's the beatdown here, particularly because the longer this goes, the more you're likely going to run into some nonsense here from the N'Zoth Shaman.
Yeah, I like the way you're playing that. You're obviously a little bit afraid of going for the Jiraxis now that you've seen the anti-healbot pulled out of the deck. So the amount of healing you have to get yourself back up out of range is a little bit limited at this point. But you do have the Mistress of Mixtures. You've still got the Reno. So maybe it is the right play to just rip it. And this was looking to be an extremely quick Jiraxis from Reynad. However, he's thinking, okay, maybe I should take this a little bit slower.
Well, he has Reno now, so that helps him a lot. Obviously, facing down the Halazil is kind of annoying, but there's no burst in N'Zoth Shaman. He just saw a Lightning Bolt.
That's it. Yeah, that's the only burst you have in the entire deck.
Gonna take a look at his deck just to double check here. And
Yeah,
he literally has one Lightning Bolt. He doesn't even have a second Lightning Bolt, so
that's it.
Yeah.
Literally the only point of burst damage that you can deal in the entire deck. Nothing else can come to face. So what you see is absolutely what you get as Reynad. So I suppose it's a little bit less risky because of that fact, playing the Jiraxis. So maybe he was doing exactly the same thing in that position, just pulling up the deck list from Zhangbo, because obviously these are public to the players, and saying, right, I'm just going to check. Do I feel safe playing Jiraxis? The one Lightning Bolt has come down, so he can feel pretty safe. The Ancestral Spirit coming down on the Halazil here. What do you think about this?
I guess he's just trying to get as sticky of a board as possible, but he's still not going to kill Reynad this way. I would have liked to see the Earth Elemental, because you've already seen Siphon Soul, and your opponent's still on 9 mana, crazily enough, even though he's played Jiraxis, right? So he can't Twisting Nether plus Hero Power here. I don't even sure if is he running Twisting Nether?
Let's have a look.
I would assume so, because
he is, yes.
Right, so you can't
too good.
So you can't do that. Looks like Reynad's just going for a little bit of tempo, and this is the problem, right, with running a deck that can't kill people, because Reynad may have had to go for a less optimal play just to try to stay alive, but knowing there was no burst, he's like, well, I can just make them, the most value play, most tempo and value play essentially, and most premium play essentially, and kill off the Halazil here using his face.
So this works out pretty well indeed for Reynad, going for the Faceless Manipulator, getting himself the value out of the Ancestral Spirit as well as Zhangbo. And it also means that this Hex, if say Zhangbo had gone for the Earth Elemental and Ancestral Spirit on that, obviously Reynad's going to copy that with Faceless Manipulator, and then obviously the Hex is going to come down from that on Zhangbo. But in this position, it means that it wasn't the most value target that you're getting the Hex down on, which means that these other cards like the Mal'Ganis that's in hand, the Cruel that could potentially come down later on, as well as the Abyssal Enforcer and the Cabal Trafficker, might be able to stick around because there are no more Hexes available to Zhangbo in hand or deck.
This is a tough spot for Reynad because he really wants to play Mal'Ganis, but if there's some sort of removal, Like, he could just die to devolve here.
That's true, but just look at the amount of healing you'll get, of the amount of buff that you're getting on all these demons here. You can take out just use your
Yeah,
hero
you can
power
use your
as
face.
he's doing. Yeah.
Forgetting about Mal'Ganis, forgetting about Mal'Ganis affects my mistake. You could just use your face on that guy and clear off the 1/1, not take any damage.
Devolve. Unfortunately for Reynad, sorry, that frog will not be affected by devolve because it already cost 0 mana.
Right. So, oh my goodness, the frog is too strong. Right, so
Too strong.
I got a couple things wrong there, but this is just funny to think about, right? Because he goes for the Mal'Ganis, doesn't take damage. For some reason, I just like lost my mind for a second, and I was thinking, well, if he plays Mal'Ganis, he can take out the board, but then, you know, if the frog is taken out somehow, then he takes 5 damage and dies, but obviously he doesn't take any damage from the Mal'Ganis being on the field, and not only that, but like you mentioned, Devolve doesn't take out the frog, so yeah, this is just kind of checkmate here for Reynad. Obviously, the game isn't completely over, but that was such a huge swing turn, and Reynad has finally stabilized and needs Jiraxis, so this feels like the beginning of the end.
It does indeed. Turns out that the frog is literally the lowest step on the evolutionary chain. You cannot go further backwards than that. So please spam your feels bad mans in the chat for this frog.
He's so strong that he's such a low life.
Right,
doesn't get
he's immune to the powers of nature.
Oh my goodness. All right, so looks like it's going to be the Volcano plus Devolve here. What the hell is
I hate this animation, D2. I hate it.
one healing.
Oh, it's so bad.
Wow. And
Mal'Ganis surviving.
He's a turtle. I mean, he survives. He's a survivor.
Wow, so Cruel able to come down now, in addition, so pulling out the Doom Guard. However, I suppose you are a little bit afraid at this point and
Double
going
healing. That'd be kind of crazy if you could go to
all the way back up to 30.
Yeah, that would be amazing if we go to 30. It's like, get him, Reno. Reynad just loves animations. She's going to just play out the Jackson here.
Yeah, correct order. Obviously, you can attack him with your weapon here because if it was last turn, you are still immune. The Devolve finally going to come down, and we see some pretty decent results for Reynad. So he's going to go again, see if he can get anything better. And once again, perfectly fine results for Reynad. That's pretty good.
I mean, it's a 7 mana 5/6.
Think about what you could get. Yeah, the 7 mana one is a little bit low.
7 mana 5/6, 5 mana 4/4. Or sorry,
That's
4 mana 4/4.
That's very average. That's fine.
I'm greedy.
You got your set sight too high, you greedy boy.
Doesn't really matter for Zhangbo here, though. You know, his opponent still has a massive board.
Yes.
It's even more massive by the moment. Nizal's not going to help. I don't think... What does Nizal even pull? It was like 2 Death Lords.
Death Lords? Yeah. I think that's the majority of what it would be. It might be a couple of other things, but that's basically it. And that means that Reynad is going to be going up, as I mark it off here, 3 games to 2, leaving him with only that Jade Druid. And he needs to win 1 game with that Jade Druid against either this kind of hybrid Paladin from Zhangbo, which will be an interesting matchup, much more 50-50 to not too favored one way or the other. But he also has to take a game against that N'Zoth Shaman, which I think is going to be a very favored matchup for Reynad.
Yeah, we just saw the weakness of the N'Zoth Shaman. It got burst down. It got basically zooed down by Reno Lock. And sorry, he's also got the Anyfin Paladin. The Jade Druid has been already won with. I marked it off incorrectly. Sorry, please go ahead. Sorry. It's okay. It's on the screen, so people can look there. But I was just talking about how this shaman, you see how weak it can be. I mean, it seems like it's so strong at certain points, right? It's like, oh, it can fend off so many boards, and then it has like these massive walls in the way, but it just got burst down by Arena Lock. And not usually when that happens, like, oh, he must have gotten, you know, Mountain Giant or Twilight Drake early and kind of taken the board that way, right? Because you're kind of ramping in a way to those minions. He didn't even have that. He just had a bunch of nothing. He was hellfiring and doing just a bunch of nothing here for Reynad. Yeah. And then just went with Jiraxis. So yeah,
that's kind of the power of an early Jiraxis, isn't it? Throughout history, if you are a control deck facing down an early Mal'Ganis, you're going to have to win through things like Grom into bursting them down, some kind of an Anyfin turn to finish them off nice and quick. It has to be some kind of burst potential, because the amount of 6/6s that you're going to be facing down is simply too high. And here, Reynad, with his Anyfin, double Anyfin and N'Zoth Paladin, a very cool deck, but he didn't manage to pick up the wins he needed yesterday. However, he has managed to find Finja on turn 5. However, that Emerald Hive Queen is going to stop him from doing it. He finally got the one
Oh.
card he needed to play on turn 5 in Finja the Ninja, but he simply cannot play it.
Oh my goodness. Well, he can play Minibot. That's pretty good, right?
Feels terrible, man.
Oh my goodness. Emerald Eye Queen. What have you done? Wow. I don't think I've ever seen devolve into that. I've seen. Well, I don't know if I've seen Maelstrom Portal into that. I think it's just something that people bring up so often. I feel like I've seen it. But Sludge Bells are coming in the way, which means Reynad can actually do stuff because he can summon Suicide off his Emerald Hive Queen.
Pretty interesting, actually, there from Zhangbo as to whether or not this was the correct play. You've got a decent amount of pressure actually coming in. 6 damage pushing through is definitely not nothing. So maybe overall it is worth just to make this board a little bit squishier. And you don't know that your opponent has such a devastatingly powerful turn 5 play, but maybe it's worth just assuming that they have Finja, or at least something decent to do, given that Reynad runs Finja the Flying Star as well as double Sludge Belcher.
I'm looking at the Sunkeeper Tarim. Put a few 3/3s on the board.
Ooh, okay.
And your Minibot gets a nice trade onto the Belcher. And then you can just get a trade and only take 1 damage on the other minions.
Okay.
And then
it's interesting.
Yeah. So a 3/3, a couple of 3/3s and a 3/2. Looks like he's just not going to go for it. He's going to go for the Fincher right now. Sunkeeper Tarim, it's really interesting, right? Because you don't. There's so many ways to use it. You can use it just to get through a big guy on your opponent's side. You can use it to buff up your own guys. Seems like Reynad feels like he's just going to have such a big board that it'll be even better in the future. And he's getting a guaranteed kill onto this slime at the moment as well.
Yes, that is definitely worth thinking. You have to have some pretty exceptional circumstances for Finja on turn 5 to not be correct. And it seems Lovelychook here. I thought he was probably going to be. Oh yeah, sorry, the Zhangbo here with his shaman. It looks like he's going to be. I thought going for the devolve or the volcano to deny Finja, but it seems like he's thinking, right, I'll just kill these Murlocs off after they're summoned from the deck. But then that has the downside of that activates the anything can happen unless you go for the devolve. But I guess if you pull them out of the deck and then go for devolve, that means anything is dead for the entire rest of the game.
Yeah, that's true. So Zhangbo going for the long play here, trying to just devolve all of the Murlocs into extinction essentially. And unfortunately anything cannot happen. But sadly. It feels so bad. Well, we're just going to flood up a little bit the board here. And devolve looks pretty spicy right now.
Yeah, this works out absolutely fantastically for Zhangbo. You can really see his line of play coming into fruition. Reynad is going to be very, very upset when that devolve comes down, especially because you would expect it to come down on the previous turn, given that you have played Finja. But now, at this point, I believe the only Murloc that can be brought back from any Fin will actually be the War Leader, obviously, and that little Murloc Tiny Fin.
I think this leaves everything but a Shadow Beast. This volcano. Yeah. And he can play the Deathlord.
Yeah, 0 mana Deathlord does seem like the play. It does set up for a very, very nice play from Reynad, where you go Lost in the Jungle into Sunkeeper Tarim, buffing up your Shadow Beast and also massively debuffing, nerfing that Deathlord that your opponent has played. So I think that will very likely end up being the play from Reynad.
Yeah, he's...
However...
Yeah, there's alternatives, right? He can go Lost in the Jungle, Hero Power, Coin, Quartermaster. So there's a few things he can do here. He can also just go very, very slow and play Sludge Belcher and say, well, you're a shaman, you can't do anything.
Right.
So, it's certainly worth considering, especially because if he plays... We saw, patience work out for Zhangbo this past turn. If Reynad's very patient, he could actually Sunkeeper Tarim, potentially the Earth Elemental on Zhangbo's side, so...
That is exactly what I wanted to point out. The fact that if you are afraid of Earth Elementals, you're going to save that Sunkeeper Tarim, given that we can actually see both of them already evident in Zhangbo's hand. But I guess overall, it's probably not worth it. And Reynad finally, he's used up all his bad Deathlord RNG and manages to pull out the Tyrion Fordring instead, the absolute undeniable best card to pull from his deck.
Wow. Well, Zhangbo, he is he's wishing he had a Hex right about now.
Wishing out that devolve right about now.
Yeah, true. Very true. What was the first devolve on?
It was on the medium-sized board, wasn't it?
Oh, it was on
What was
the
it? It was
War Leader. It
the
was like
War Leader.
it was War Leader, Zombie Chow,
Yeah,
and like Haunted Creeper. So
yeah. Not much, but decent. Obviously denying the death rattle from the Haunted Creeper, as well as the
oh,
as
good
well as
Zhangbo.
the Murloc War Leader. But in this position, that is the perfect turn 8 combo. You have to sacrifice off one of your minions here in order to make room. But just going for Muster for Battle Quartermaster is incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it looks like he is gonna go for it. So turns his initial Silverhand Recruit into a 5/5. He's like, I'm big now, guys. And then it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you have to run into that Earth Elemental, please. Thank you very much. The trades are still awkward, though.
Was this just a misplay from Reynad to trade off the Silverhand Recruit rather than the Sunkeeper Tarim? Because he ended up trading off the Tarim anyway, and he would have got an extra +2/+2 buff on the Silverhand Recruit. I'm not sure. I can't quite figure out off the top of my head if the trades would have worked out the same. But I think potentially because the Sunkeeper Tarim was traded off, a small misplay from Reynad in not getting the extra buff on the Silverhand Recruit.
Oh, think about it this way: if he throws the Sunkeeper and his Tyrion in first, then he has a couple of 5/5s. He still can't use his weapon to get through, so it's the exact same.
Oh yeah, sure. Okay, fair enough.
All right, well, Zhangbo back on his side. The Earth Elemental, it's bigger than all of your opponent's stuff, but then he just gets a Suicide Tyrion and smack you in the face. A couple of Lightning Storms looks like it's going to be the play here, but every single turn he's just hurting for mana. Ooh, okay, he really needs a second storm now.
Really, really wants to get that 50-50 on the Tyrion. The Quartermaster less important, but he gets the perfect RNG and clears out the entire board from Reynad. Things still looking okay though for Reynad. You've got the double Sludge Belt to play on this turn to apply a decent amount of pressure, but it looks like he's going to save that coin and instead... Oh no, he's going for the hero power as well. I suppose this does push the maximum amount of attack power. Yep.
Yeah, just wants to put as much stuff on the board as possible. He's seen 2 Devals, 2 Storms, and a Volcano, so it's been pretty a lot of stuff going on. It feels like, you know, that that raunchy cartoon that he made with Yogs are on.
Yeah.
Just like all the things happening, just storms and volcanoes and, you know, devolutions, if that's a word.
I believe it is a word.
If it's not a word, we just made it a word.
It is now.
By the way, Hex a turn late, unfortunately, but he does get the Joust win.
And that's kind of the downside, isn't it, of going for the devolve on the Murlocs, is you could, with your transform effects you have in Shaman, you obviously have 4 of them in the 2 devolves and 2 hexes, but you can only really diminish either the Anything Can Happens or the N'Zoth, given that Reynad is running both, and Zhangbo has very clearly opted to destroy the Anything Can Happens rather than the N'Zoths. And although he is hexing this sludge... Oh, he's not hexing the Sludge Belcher. He's instead opting to completely destroy the Anything Can Happen.
There's the Anything!
He's going to pull out a 1/1. You thought that Wisp was powerful. Try times against mana cost by literally infinity.
Wow. Literally infinity.
Literally infinity.
So that's just a completely dead card. You'd rather just hero power and do anything else.
Yeah, it's literally any hero power is just as... Well, actually, no. If you go for the Anything Can Happen, instead of hero power, the second one will pull out 2 Murloc Tiny Fins instead. So it's not technically worse, but it's garbage, let's be honest.
If there's ever a turn where Reynad is just going to be hero powering, then he might as well play the Anyfin.
Right. Yep.
No, but there's hero power buffs, so maybe not.
Yeah, true. Basically, that's a dead 10 mana card. But it does mean, however, that the N'Zoth the Corruptor will be an incredibly powerful card as soon as Reynad finds it, because the Tyrion will be brought back as well as both Sludge Belchers. I believe looking back there was a Shredder that was devolved and a Creeper that was devolved, so as well as a Zombie Chow. So a fair few death rattles have been brought out of the way, but even just bringing back the Tyrion and the 2 Sludge Belchers is devastatingly powerful for Reynad.
Yeah, Tyrion is such a strong death rattle that by itself makes N'Zoth worth it, because if you think about it, it's a 2 mana 5/7 at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, it is 100% worth it. 2 mana 5/7 card as well, because it's only 1 card that you're paying for both of the minions. So really, really powerful in its own right. And with 2 Sludge Belchers tacked on, it feels absolutely fantastic.
So Zhangbo's going for the Volcano here because his own... well, he'll be able to play the Sneed this coming turn. But Zhangbo's own N'Zoth, if he pulls it, is not going to be too great. Essentially only the Sneeds, which again is really, really good, but he kind of wishes he had more at this point.
Right, yeah, that's true. Obviously, unfortunately, the when you put Ancestral Spirit on a minion, it does not come back with an N'Zoth. It has to actually have Death Rattle when you play it from your hand. It has to
Yeah,
have
and
N'Zoth. It has to have Death Rattle in the text. Yeah.
yeah, and Death Roll doesn't even if you silence it, as long as it's not transformed, the fact that that minion, which originally had Death Rattle, died,
Yes.
you get that back. So it's kind of
Yeah,
funny
yeah,
that
yeah.
way.
Oh, a
Uh,
couple of pretty poor draws from Reynad here. The 1 mana and the 2 mana card is really not what he's looking for. And now that Ashbringer has gone, the amount of damage he's actually pushing forward is massively mitigated.
and there's N'Zoth from. Oh, he's just gonna play it. Oh, okay. He just gets Susswilcher and Death Lord. Okay, so he just
That's
feels like
absolutely fine.
he needs a tempo. Yeah.
Oof.
Well,
Reynad is really looking for his own N'Zoth. That was absolutely devastating that Zhangbo has got it and Reynad does not. Every single turn that Reynad goes on not having his own N'Zoth is massively, massively bad for him. As well as the fact that that Death Lord, when it dies, has a very decent shot at actually pulling out Reynad's own N'Zoth.
Jumbo's actually putting a lot of pressure on Reynad. He's 2-turn lethal.
He is, yep. Doesn't look like he's going for it. Would rather keep up the trades instead. I believe there's still a second quartermaster, so there is reason to clear off the Silverhand recruits. But outside of that, you can start pushing stuff to face.
Yeah, I was somewhat surprised to see the Sneed's attack go onto the mini button.
Me too.
I felt like he could have just cleared the 2/1/1s with his low attack minions, which it wouldn't have mattered. 5, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, he's not threatening lethal now. So, I mean, he's still in a really good spot. But say Reynad played N'Zoth, like,
Yep.
I suppose he does get a taunt out of it for Reynad. But like, maybe Reynad would have to play some sort of clear. If he had one of the two cards in hand was clear, one of them was some sort of big minion, then he had to play the clear. Obviously, if Zhangbo was starting lethal here, but gonna be the Keeper Voldemort just to make N'Zoth a bit smaller.
Yeah, a little bit needlessly conservative, but with that
Well, he has something else to
draw,
do, right? So, oh, are you talking about Zhangbo? Okay, sorry.
yeah, sorry, yeah, with Zhangbo's draw, is he now representing lethal? He's got 8, 10,
Yeah, it's
14. With the spell damage, that is going to finish it off. A little bit of BM healing on the spider, it would seem there. Just to tilt Reynad that little bit further. A valid strategy, I would wager.
Yeah, I can just hear Reynad in my head right now. Like, who's this guy think he is?
Yeah. You know what? You tell me what playing Hearthstone like. I'll tell you what a woman feels like.
Oh my god.
So that's a classic Reynad line,
Oh
but
my
with
God.
more panache, obviously.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't say I've watched a whole lot of Reynad, unfortunately. But
Oh.
I'm sorry. I don't watch a whole lot of streamers just in general. The only time I ever watch streamers is on YouTube, because I can play it on 2 times speed.
What's wrong with you, man? You got to live a little, live in the moment. 2 times speed. Can you imagine how annoying all the different streamers' voices would be? I think Thijs would only be audible to dogs playing it on 2 times speed.
It doesn't make their voices higher.
Is it not? Is that
No.
not how sound works?
I mean, the old
When you speed things up, it starts to sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks, doesn't it?
that's old technology. New technology is
Oh.
able to do it without messing up the voices. Go on YouTube and try that. It's really
I'll give it a
nice.
shot.
You can save a lot of time.
What can I say? I'm an old-fashioned guy.
You're the old one in this relationship between you and I.
Yeah, clearly.
Anyway, we'll see which paladin wins, the N'Zoth Anyfin paladin or the put a lot of good stuff in the deck paladin.
Yeah, kind of weird hybrid mid-range paladin from Zhangbo. I think I'd have to favor Reynad in this face-off. However, there are some cards that could make the difference for Zhangbo. He's got some very nice new cards in the Spike Ridge Steed, things like that. He has Dr. Boom as well. And if he can get off that Silverhand Recruit synergy with the Light Fuse Stegodon, maybe that will be the difference he needs to take it. However, Reynad has a pretty nice starting hand to get things going.
This always happens, right? You're wanting a specific card, and then you get it the very first card in your next game, and you're just like, I don't want it now.
Yeah, exactly. However, that is a card that Reynad definitely does want. No transform effects in the Paladin deck, obviously. So these Murlocs, once they're pulled out of the deck, will be doing some work. And I don't believe that Zhangbo has any way to kill that Finja while it is in stealth mode, because there's no codos, no qualities, anything like that. So it feels like once that is played, it will be pulling out Murlocs.
Those knives
Oi,
were
oi, oi.
horrible.
Absolutely dreadful.
And now he can't kill the zombie child, which means the zombie child gets to kill the knife juggler.
Could those have been worse? I suppose both to face would just about have been worse, but it's pretty dire for Zhangbo.
Both to the Honda Creeper, I believe, would have been slightly worse because then Reynad immediately
Really?
gets to use it.
I guess so. Either way, this is not what Zhangbo is looking for, and he's presented with a very, very difficult choice. And I believe you're just supposed to push this to face. What are you thinking about? You're afraid of Consecration, which Reynad does not run, so you're not afraid of Consecration.
Yeah, you want to get as much value potentially out of this shield as possible. I think Zhangbo's thinking about what Reynad's most likely to do, right? And so he potentially could have gone for the pop onto the Divine Shield from the Honda Creeper there. So, just goes for this and just kind of gets the most damage out of the mini bots possible.
Yeah, you can definitely see the reasoning here, but it obviously has the downside of that the Zombie Chow can nicely trade into the Knife Juggler, and the pickup of Cold Hammer means it can also now take out the shielded money bot. So things not working out very nicely at all for Zhangbo, and with no real play on turn 4, things are starting to look very rough for him indeed.
Yeah, it looks like they lost Reynad's perspective there for a moment, and I saw him pick the card off the top. I'm like, he had some options there, so that's probably a pretty good card that he picked up, and it certainly was in that Cog Hammer. I'm taking a look at Zhangbo's list right now, and he runs 2 Consecrations. So
he does, but he nails the perfect shredder on curve. Fantastic play from Zhangbo there, picking up the card he needed. And then on the following turn, although there's no silver and recruits left on board, or I very much doubt there will be after Reynard's had his way, the Lothar will be a perfectly decent way to follow things up.
All right, well, it looks like Reynard's going for his Finja right now. I'm going to go ahead and pop the Shredder. Doomsayer would be pretty bad for Reynad here, but only a little Fireplume Harbinger, I believe that's called.
So if Zhangbo had gone for the Lothar rather than the Quartermaster, there would actually have been no way for Reynad to activate his Finja to pull the Murlocs from the deck. That is, however, before the Bluegill Warrior was drawn into hand. There is obviously a way to do that now, and things are starting to look pretty fantastic for Reynad. If this War Leader sticks around, it means that the Bluegill Warrior left in hand will be a 4 damage charger. Eat your heart out, Corcoran Elite.
Get him. All right, well, Zhangbo kind of just falling behind here, has to play a Lothar just to have the 5 and a 5/5. Reynad has no spells in hand anyway, so it's not like it affects really anything. And going to keep the Firefly in hand for a bit of buffs perhaps in the future, but Reynad's certainly taken board control. One thing to consider though is Reynad has not put any pressure on Zhangbo's life total, which is a big deal considering that Zhangbo can just basically even up the board by playing Dr. Boom.
That's true. There are 2 fantastic plays coming up for Zhangbo in the obvious perfect turns 7 and 8, and it's been pretty unfortunate because he had the perfect 4-drop in the piloted Shredder. But
look at this old work guy. That card. Oh my goodness.
That is truly insane. Look at the amount of damage he's pushing forward. That's it.
He just gives it up.
He would have died on the following turn. Dr. Boom would have done nothing, and I don't believe there are any other cards in Zhangbo's deck that could have saved him. Sludge Belcher maybe, but even then you're in such a poor spot because you're just not cleaning up the board then. You're just delaying the inevitable. So Reynad finally takes a series.
So I think that Reynad emoted oops. So did he just have lethal? If he didn't attack into the Lothar first?
I'm not going to embarrass myself by saying that he did, but he attacked him with a Zombie Chow and then activated the Finja. He had to attack in to activate the Finja, didn't he?
Oh, right. Yeah, true.
Yeah.
Okay, well, regardless.
Either way, he's done it. He's managed
nuts
to win a series. I believe because of the fact that it went 4-3 overall, Reynad is out of the running in order to get to Shanghai because of the fact that his win-loss differential is too poor compared to Lovelychook.
Yeah. So in case you guys are just joining us, Reynad finally picked up his first win, but unfortunately he has fallen too far behind to be able to be in the top 4. So he's going to be our last place finisher, but does pick up $1,000 for his trouble, and doesn't have to do anything silly like hop on a plane to Shanghai.
Yeah, exactly. There are many, many worse things I would do for $1,000 rather than play a few games of Wild.
Yep. As you can see, this is our result here. Pretty back and forth between both of these players. Reynad able to take it in the end there. I think those are their world rankings, by the way. The first
really?
two characters mean world, and the last character means name or something. So I think that's their. Maybe they're going off of Gosu Gamers rankings.
Is Reynad 41? That's pretty good.
Well, he's had a few results.
Yeah, I
lately,
guess so.
But I'm not sure.
And he did literally invent the game, so it's understandable he's so high.
Yeah, I think if you invent Hearthstone, you can't be any lower than 41st, right? So, but yeah. Well, that means that Zhangbo, he could fall below Lovelychook now. So
Yeah,
a bit more on the line for both of our players coming up. That's going to be Lovelychook versus Eloise. So make sure you stick around for that one. And
yeah, going to be pretty cool to see these players facing off each other. Lovelychook, I would say, bringing the most aggressive lineup, and Eloise taking things a little bit slower, but still with that obvious pirate warrior to back her up.
We are going to go to a break, guys. See you right after this.
Oh, it's good to see you again. Pull up a chair by the hearth.
强者并非与生俱来，而是源自强大的内心，是充满力量的心，是专注的心。它可以把控一切，同时不失细节。这颗心让强者卓然超群，打破限制，撼动世界。要知道，磨练可以造就强者，而英特尔酷睿 i7 处理器更让强者势不可挡。
Hello guys, welcome back to the NSL Hearthstone Masters. Excuse me while I mute this once more. And also called the Celestial Grand Show. We are down to our last match of Phase 1 of this tournament. I guess we're just calling it its own separate entity now with the Celestial Grand Show. But yeah, we've come down to this, and basically what's happened in this entire thing, in case you're just joining us somehow, is that we had 5 players and they all played in a round robin, and every match is worth $1,000, and the top 4 are going to Shanghai. We have now eliminated Reynad, so players going to Shanghai are Xixo. Why are you laughing? I'm just stating the facts.
You're making that sound like it's our goal. Finally, Noodle's out the picture so we can get down to the real Hearthstone.
No, I mean, it's just that those are the results. We're done. We're finally done.
Of course.
Anyway, so Xixo, Eloise, Lovelychook, and Zhangbo are going to Shanghai, and our next match is going to be Eloise versus Lovelychook, as you see Lovelychook on the screen here. And the implications of this match are obviously the $1,000 that's on the line, but also if Lovelychook loses, I believe he remains in 4th, and Eloise would go to 1st, and they would then play each other. Actually, that's kind of weird. Because no matter what happens, they're playing each other again. Assuming that they have 1v4 and 2v3. So...
that is cool.
Well,
Destined to be.
Cool in one way, but also very anticlimactic in another way, right? Because they can't affect anything. Right?
No, let's call it cool. Let's stick to cool.
they're playing for $1,000, but other than that...
Exactly,
assuming 1v4 and 2v3, either Eloise goes to 1 and... Lovelychook goes on to 4 and they play each other in Shanghai, or Eloise stays in 2 and Lovelychook goes to 3rd and they play each other in Shanghai. And,
that is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it doesn't really matter what they do though, so no, I'm gonna go cry because we have no drama. No.
All right, T2. I think the issues lie deeper than whether or not Lovelychook and Eloise will play against each other if you're going to go and cry.
No, that's the biggest issue at the moment right now. There's nothing really in there.
Okay. So it's going to be pretty cool to see these two players facing off against each other, because Lovelychook obviously pretty much going all out with the aggression here. He is bringing Pirate Warrior, which is the only kind of warrior anyone's bringing, Aggro Druid, which is one of the 2 druids that people are bringing, as well as Aggro Shaman, Secret Mage, and the classic secret mysterious challenger Paladin. And we can see on both sides arguably the most aggressive deck being banned away from each player.
Yep, Pirate Warrior going away here. Just want to mention while we're here, before we get into the match, that the format for Shanghai is bizarre.
Weird.
It's out there, guys.
You've never seen anything like this before, I guarantee.
Yeah, June 2nd and 3rd. You want to tune in for that one. And what it is they have their classes randomly selected for them, and then they build their decks right then and there against their opponent. It's kind of crazy, which is funny because I would actually like to see Reynad do that.
That's what I was going to say.
Interesting deck builders.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that all aside, we're getting ready for this particular match. So, Paladin, Druid, Shaman, Mage here for Lovelychook, all aggressive like you mentioned, and then Warlock, Druid, Shaman, and Paladin, and off we go into space. Our first match.
So there are some decent options here for Eloise. Obviously, she is going to be the controlling player in most of these matchups. You've gone for Jade Druid rather than the aggro. She's got a very greedy control N'Zoth Shaman rather than the aggro Shaman, and she's opted to bring Reno Lock in addition to that. However, she's got some nice nods to teching against an aggro meta in each of her decks. She's running the double Earthen Scales in her Jade Druid, which we have not seen played unanimously in the Jade Druid decks. I believe it was Xixo who cut both Earthen Scales from his. We've got the Tar Creeper, Mistress of Mixtures in the Reno Lock deck. So there are definitely ways that she can come back into this game. However, starting things off with a pretty dire matchup for Eloise and a pretty dire starting hand as well.
What do you think Eloise's best chance to get a win with is Jade Druid or which deck?
Against which deck? Let's have a look at Lovelychook's remaining decks. Pirate Warrior is gone. I think probably the Secret Mage. Because I don't think that deck is very good, actually, having watched it the last couple of days.
Do you think it's maybe a mistake for Eloise to lead off with this? Maybe she could have gotten a win with some of her other decks and then tried to have the Druid go off against the Mage later?
Yeah, maybe, but I mean, it's Conquest pick order. It can only matter so much. If she keeps losing with this Jade Druid, eventually she will match it up against that Secret Mage.
Right, but then it gives her other decks less opportunities to win.
Right, sure. I guess so. If you could have predicted that Lovelychook wouldn't leave off with his Secret Mage, perhaps it would have been correct to go with a different deck.
All right, well, coin the Honda Creeper into hero power here for Eloise. She does have the Jade Blossom, which is one of the better cards that you want, but against an aggressive deck, you really want to be able to innervate that out, just to immediately have that mana going for you.
So it is starting to get something going here for Eloise. Getting the 1-1 on the board, obviously not too impactful now that the Haunted Creeper has been buffed up to a 3-3. It gets you a little bit closer to that Jade Behemoth, which could be very nice to stall this game out. But Lovelychook is showing absolutely no sign of slowing down as of yet. Has the option to go for Power of the Wild for the buff here in order to make it nice and easy to take out this Jade Golem and then continue to slam into face. However, it seems he would rather draw the card and get this Haunted Creeper to truly staggering heights.
That spider is straight from your nightmares. It's 5/5 spider. If you think about it, sometimes I like to think about like the actual power level of the minions in the game as compared to other minions, right? I like sometimes. An Azure Drake, like this. What even is an Azure Drake? But it's like this. It's a dragon, right? It's this powerful dragon, and it does 4 attack. And this spider is doing, this spider is doing 5 attack basically every single time. So.
Yeah, but think about it. It's got the power of Yasharaj. It's got tentacles flying all over the place.
That is true. But now it's dead and it's spawned its spectral spiders. Let's see what Lovelychook can pick up here. Not so obvious. He could have gone for the Paladin hero power because you are a flood deck.
It's true, but you've got plenty of flood anyway with 2 of these living manas coming up in the next few turns. You just want to get a little bit of damage that you can fire off to face without having to load up a board, just if by some miracle your opponent manages to keep your board completely clear. But on this turn, we can see that with the Power of the Wild, this is going to be game in Lovelychook's favor.
Right. Okay, well, the power of the Mark of the Wild makes it even easier, right? He can get 12 damage to face. Otherwise, he'd have to
unbelievably easy. It would still have been lethal.
Yeah, with the ping. Even with
easy
the
peasy.
Awkward trades. Yep.
That seems to be, from what we've seen, one of the most lopsided matchups so far. It's just so difficult for the Jade Druid to find a way to come back in the game because you're obviously going to fall up behind in the first few turns of the game, but it doesn't feel like you have the comeback mechanics in the later stages, and you no longer have the opportunity to go for Primordial Drake because ubiquitously, it's finally late enough for me to correctly pronounce that phrase, players have cut it from their deck, so you don't have the opportunity to in it out on turns 4, 5, or 6 in order to shut down the aggro deck.
Yeah, definitely. And all the things that make Druid so powerful, like the ramp effects, you just cannot play them because you need to immediately deal with the minions. If you don't immediately deal with the minions, then they just buff them up, and then you're in a lot of trouble. And then on top of that, there's things like Neurobionic, which you can't even kill in the first place anyway.
So Eloise once again loading up her Jade Druid. It seems she's trying to get her most miserable matchup just out of the way. And speaking of miserable matchups, I think this is going to be the same once again. It was always the case when Aggro Shaman was truly in the meta with Tunnel Trogs and Totem Golems, the pre-rotation version, rather than this kind of weird flood deck we've got now. This was a pretty rubbish matchup for the Jade Druid.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. It wasn't the worst, though. Not nearly like the last matchup that we just saw, because you can sometimes see the Druid just barely hang on. In particular, if the Shaman doesn't put enough pressure on turns, by turn 4 or so, then Druid just kind of destabilizes pretty easily. So if you don't put enough pressure on, Druid destabilizes. Sometimes you can put pressure on, and Druid just kind of barely holds on. And the addition of Earthen Scales is a really big deal as well. If she's running it, I'm not sure if she is.
Right. She is running Earthen Scales in this deck. Was that a 4-card keep from Eloise there?
I don't know.
I think it might have been, and it's interesting because you've got a lot of the cards you want. Innovate is one of the most crucial cards in any matching up against any single aggro deck, because you really just need to get your cards out of your hand as quickly as possible, and Innovate is one of the best cards in the game to allow you to do that. And having the Sludge Belcher as well is really, really nice to follow up, hopefully after you've cleared off the majority of the minions with your removal spells.
Well, Finley comes down here for Lovelychook and gets the Hunter Hero power. Between that and Warlock, those were the two he's likely looking to get here. As a Sludge Butcher hits the field. We might see a delay on these Feral Spirits because Lava Burst is really good.
Yes. Lava Burst is very, very nice indeed. Some really nice options being picked
or
up
you
here,
just
actually.
Crackle it, right?
Lovelychook. Yeah.
You can just crackle
yeah,
it.
okay.
Although if you roll a 3 here with the Crackle, you basically just lose the game.
No, because you roll a 3 and then you attack in with Patches and Finley.
Right. Okay. It's still pretty.
And then finish off the slime with the Trog, and you're still left with a South Sea deckhand and a Tunnel Trog. And that's literally the worst result you can get. And he rolls
a 3.
Oh.
It's still pretty bad though, right? Even though it's not the end of the world, it's not as bad as I first thought it would be. It's really bad still. If that had rolled a 5 or 6, which is 50-50, it's 50% chance that it could happen, then it just dies straight up. Your Trog gets through it. You get extra damage to face, and you have twice the size of your board. And instead, this happens. And you can see why he went for it, right? He wanted to go for the Feral Spirit this turn.
It was the potential for a massive high roll. And I know it's just a meme to say at this point that Crackle is the worst card ever made, but Crackle is truly just one of the worst things in the history of the world. Not even the history of Hearthstone. And I'm not even over-exaggerating here.
On the one hand, we have Hitler. On the other hand, we have Crackle.
Okay, yeah, of course, the first thing you bring up, you just have to make me seem like a bit of an idiot.
I'm agreeing with you. I think that Crackle may
You're
be
agreeing
worse.
with me.
I think that Crackle may be worse.
Oh, Tempo Storm does not endorse Hitler, okay? We're renowned.
Hey, it's not saying that Hitler wasn't bad. It would say that Crackle is really, really bad. Okay. Sorry to all the Jewish people watching this.
Oh, no. Okay, we're bringing this back to the game.
We had to apologize, okay? Or at least I had to apologize.
You guys apologize, yeah. So with the high amount of burst damage in hand, it complements very nicely the Hunter Hero power that Lovelychook has managed to gain. We're going to have to see some kind of armor gain from Eloise in the coming turns. Thankfully, she already has that Feral Rage in order to negate effectively 4 turns of hero power coming through from Lovelychook, but we're going to have to see the stemming of that damage from these Feral Spirits, because even just that 4 damage a turn is absolutely devastating for Eloise.
All right, so counting the damage here from Lovelychook, looks like we have a bit of a pause on his side of the board. Okay, yeah, they
Chinese internet
got messed up a little bit. What was Eloise said? So he has... Oh, that's even more damage.
Okay.
So the Flame Tongue is probably coming out just because it protects your spirit,
right.
Spirits a little bit as well. And you can either trade or go face here. If he goes face, or she... Or actually, it is he, because that's his Lovelychook side. He gets 8 damage from the Feral Spirits, and then he can still Lava Burst and Lightning Bolt, which would be 8, so he's 1 damage off lethal.
Wow, really? 8 damage, 11. Wow, yeah, you're right. 1 damage off of lethal, but I think he's lining up to go for Maelstrom Portal, Lightning Bolt on the Azure Drake to deny any kind of Azure Drake swipe nonsense from closing out the game. And here manages to push in 8 damage, which means even if the board is completely cleared, it will be 2 damage off lethal on the following turn. And here, Lovelychook is vindicated for clearing off that Azure Drake, because the swipe here would have been absolutely devastating, clearing off his entire board. And I think now this is pretty much GG in Lovelychook's favor.
Well, Eloise can swipe and Feral Rage.
Oh, swipe and Feral Rage. Okay.
The question is
you
when you
swipe
swipe.
The Flame Tongue, obviously.
Well, you could swipe the leftmost Feral Spirit.
Yeah,
because that's taking 4 damage as well. You don't have to deal with 2 attacking minions. Otherwise, so either you're leaving behind an 0-2 Flame Tongue and a 4-1 Feral Spirit, or you're leaving behind 2 2-1s. So It's kind of close. Looks like she's going to go for the Flame Tongue. And almost certainly... Well, I guess she could Hero Power and take a risk. This would put her down to 8, which means that with 9 damage on the side of Lovelychook, she is now dead.
So technically, Eloise is losing the game on this spot where she could have maybe survived another turn. But I believe the phrase is playing to win rather than playing to not lose. She knows that if there is this Lava Burst in hand for Lovelychook, she probably ends up losing anyway, given that the Feral Rage is the only source of armor gain in her hand. So I guess she's thinking, right, I just have to pray there's no burst in hand from my opponent so that I can finish them off, or so that I can gain up a decent amount of armor on the following turn, and then hopefully stabilize from there, maybe drawing something like Feral Rage off of these gadgets and auctioneers that I have. But obviously, the risk she took did not end up paying out for her.
I can see why she went for that play, but I think there's still merit in playing the Feral... Or,
oh, definitely.
Yeah, not Feral Rage.
Feral Rage.
Feral Rage, yeah.
Yeah.
Words are hard. Anyway... Because a lot of times, like you mentioned, you know, if you just play not to lose, you're essentially consigning yourself to just dying eventually, and you're making it actually more likely that you just lose the game in the long run by just not taking a risk of not dying there. But if you think about it, she could have not died and then, you know, gadgets into some earthen scales and, you know, still stay alive, and the extra 2/1 on board would maybe not have made a difference in the long run. So it's close. I don't really blame her though, obviously.
Yes. So going into this next game, I said in chat during the break, are you guys ready for Lovelychook's mage deck to go 0-4? Because we saw it absolutely fall flat on its face yesterday. It managed, I think it lost 3 games in a row just because of the high amount of secrets it put in the deck. Just meant it opens you up to some truly terrible draws. However, Lovelychook seems to have got a truly disgusting draw here. The 1-drop Mana Worm into your choice of 2 drops, be it the Mad Scientist or the Arcanologist, leaves you feeling absolutely fantastic, especially as you can follow up on the next few turns with Ethereal Arcanist or Cabal Secret Runner with any of these fantastic secrets you've got.
Yeah, the one time that you and I casted Lovelychook, he pretty much destroyed Reynad's Quest Rogue with this deck. And it was kind of
perfect draw.
Yeah, that's the thing. It had the absolute perfect draw, and even though Reynad had a decent draw on his side as well, it wasn't enough. But we do see Counterspell coming to the hand here, which would be pretty massive.
Yeah. Against
this Nourish.
That would be absolutely fantastic, because that means then that, you know, Lovelychook just doesn't really have to deal with the Fandral on this turn. It's obviously a pretty nicely statted minion to deal with what he's got on board, but I think you're most likely going to end up just firing off this stuff to face instead.
Well, looks like he is going to commit the coin just to do so.
I'm not sure if I like this play. You're already massively negating, you're completely negating the power of a Nourish right here, but I guess you're thinking Eloise is probably just going to develop a minion if she has that, because she is obviously going to be afraid of the counterspell. But I don't know. I think you probably want to play a little bit more aggressive in this matchup. You need to push the minion damage in the mid game and then finish them off with your burst damage in the late game.
Yeah, by the way, on Eloise's side, the Sludge Belcher was the safest play, because worst case scenario, it's Mirror Entity, and the Sludge Belcher doesn't kill the Sludge Belcher anyway.
Yes.
So just goes for that, and if either your spells gets counterspelled, it's really bad. Eloise kind of stuck here, and so the issue is that this Ethereal Arcanist is just going to grow even more if she doesn't take it out. But gonna just go ahead, play Gaddison right now. There's not a great way to get rid of this counterspell. I suppose you get rid of Jade Blossom, which feels really bad because you really need to use this Wrath.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
it doesn't feel too good.
I think that's exactly right. The other thing I want to point out is, just to make this even more difficult for Eloise to deal with, is out of the 6 secrets being run by Lovelychook, 2 of them are duplicate. We can see 2 mirror entities, 2 counterspells, and 2 duplicates to give his deck that little bit more steam that he needs to keep things going. So Eloise was thinking, I know it's not counterspell. I hope she was thinking, oh, she knows it's not mirror entity, sorry. I hope she was thinking that. So she's thinking this is either counterspell or a duplicate. There's just a straight up 50-50 chance because of the fact that it was drawn off of the Arcanologist, not chosen in any other way. And so taking the risk in clearing off the Kirintor Mage, I suppose you'd rather they have more Kirintor Mages than more Ethereal Arcanists, because those can truly become disgusting. And when you're only running 1 mulch, I believe, in your... Oh, no, sorry. No mulches in your Jade Druid deck, you are very afraid of big minions like that.
All right. Well, second secret comes onto the field here for Lovelychook. I think if you're Eloise, you play off this. Yeah, the Jade Blossom first. That gets counterspelled, but Gadgetzan still draws a card because Gadgetzan things.
I forgot about that interaction.
Yeah, I was about to mention that. Sorry, I couldn't save you there, but no, but it's kind of nuts, right? It's like, did that really get counterspelled?
Yeah.
Or because he actually didn't draw the card.
I suppose the thing is, you did still play a secret, didn't you? It's just it got countered after the fact.
Right. Or played a spell, but for
Oh,
Eloise,
sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, words are hard. I know. We've already experienced that. Eloise, I think this is her second Jade idol, so
it is.
Feels compelled to cycle it, but does go for just the tempo. I suppose this secret mage runs out of stuff really quickly, so it's not
That's
like
right.
as long as you just get the board. I mean, going up to 10-10 and stats is perfectly enough to finish off the game here. So.
It is most certainly a very aggressive build of Secret Mage, and Eloise knows that and is therefore playing as much for tempo as she possibly can, because there's basically no possibility of this game going to the point where you need infinite Jade idols. And at this point, the 0-mana Cabal Secret Runner, this is where the benefit of running a 6 Secret Mage deck becomes very, very apparent. A Cabal Secret Runner for 0 mana is a massive tempo swing here for Eloise. Or for Lovelychook, sorry, but it does mean that Eloise has the potential to, if she can clear off the minions on this board, is looking in a decent spot, because that fireball is really not what Lovelychook wants at the moment. Eloise is nowhere near being bursted down in terms of her current health total, so if she can clear this off, she's looking all right.
I don't think she should play the Wrath this turn. If I were her, I'd rather go for the just hero power down the Mana Worm and then play the Behemoth, because even if, no matter what it is, right, if it's duplicates, like whatever, you have a couple 1-drops, and if it's counterspell, then it's fine, obviously, and if it's a mirror entity, then you just give your opponent a 3/6, but you get a 3/6 and a 3/3.
Right. I guess what you're thinking is you just don't want to give your opponent the ability to remove your taunt minions with damage spells like a fireball, a frostbolt, things like that. You'd rather just remove the minions while you can, so there's nothing pushing forward towards your face. Lovelychook top deck's pretty much the best card in his deck. I think that might be what top... Oh, sorry, he was running Dr. Boom as well. So the second best card, you would obviously rather have Dr. Boom on curve on turn 7. But for Eloise, things starting to look significantly nicer. She knows now that is not a counterspell because she already activated on the previous turn. So I would argue playing a little bit too much around a mirror entity.
Right, but she picks up the perfect minion here, giving your opponent a 2/3 and getting double the stats on her end. 2, 4, so 8, 14, 15 damage here for Lovelychook. But there's a lot of armor gaming in Eloise's hand right now.
Yeah, that's exactly it. This is getting to the point, as we have seen time and time again, or a lot over the last couple of days with Lovelychook Secret Mage, where you just will run out of stuff to do. Even with Azure Drakes in your deck, it just seems there's such potential to just get a load of really low mana cards with Cabal Lackey, your secrets, things like that. And then once the Jade Druid starts gaining armor, speaking of which, you are just not going to have any real chance of finishing them off, because you're going to fall behind on board, because the Jade Golems are going to start coming, and then they don't stop coming, and then you lose to armor game.
The Chinese production immediately put up Mirror Entity. I'm not really sure how they knew that was going to happen. He does run duplicates, right?
No, that was the Mirror Entity. Oh, was the Mirror Entity just played? I think it was just a weird glitch on their side, because Mirror Entity wasn't played on that last turn, was it?
No, he tossed in his Mad Scientist, that's why.
Oh, he does. Oh, sorry, yeah, my mistake. Okay.
I was just confused because they immediately put the Mirror Entity right when it was tossed in. I was like, how did they know that? But anyway.
Interesting. Weird Chinese powers.
The best Chinese powers. All right, let's see what he decides to go for with the, or she decides to go for with the Earthen Scales. If she puts it onto the Jade Behemoth, it goes to 7 health. Obviously, makes it a little bit hard to get through, especially without a ping, with the ping on the side of Lovelychook. So maybe better to buff up your Behemoth rather than your 4/4, even though you get 1 more armor this way. It's close though.
It's very, very close. You really do need to be keeping up on the board as much as possible, because there's still the potential for you to fall behind with top decks like that, or Dr. Boom, or Azure Drake, or Lotheb, actually. There are still a fair few nice top decks for Lovelychook, so this is most certainly not over by any extent. However, with that double earthen scales here. Eloise can buff that Jade Golem up to the point where it trades perfectly with your opponent's Jade Behemoth, and then following up with either the hero power into Jade Jade Spirit or the Jade Behemoth. Both are fantastic plays in addition to those 2 earthen scales.
All right, so like you mentioned, just going to get the nice trade here, gain.
Oh, you've got the mana for hero power anyway. Sorry, my mistake. This is definitely the better play.
Right, yeah. So going up to 23 is Eloise in a pretty nice spot right now, especially because she's still going to have those golems coming in. And Arcanologist comes out here for Lovelychook, picks up, I believe that's going to be duplicate 100%. Yep.
Ooh, that's nice. That's definitely the card that you want, the secret that you want most at this point, because obviously copying the Cabal Crystal Runner is going to be your best outcome, but any of these other minions, they're not bad.
It is, though. Eloise knows
yeah,
what
that's
it is,
exactly
though.
right.
So she can just kill whatever she wants and give her opponent something bad. Swipe comes off the top here. She can she afford to? She doesn't have any healing left other than her hero power, so she could swipe down something else and then hero power down the Crystal Runner, and she might be an okay spot, but it gets a little bit dicey, but probably fine though. So she could let's see, what does she want to give back to her opponent? The Arcanologist pulls something out of it. He kind of just draws a card too.
Pulls a duplicate, yes. You don't really want to give that. But
then he plays it, and then you just give your opponent a bunch of 2/3s anyways. It doesn't really matter.
Right.
She's looking at the Jade Spirit, but then that gives your opponent a couple of 2/3s and also a couple of like a 1/1 and a 2/2, which actually doesn't matter, I guess. I suppose this is okay. You definitely don't want to give her the Crystal Runner because that's the biggest minion. The Kyrian Tormage is okay as well because it's not really doing a whole lot.
I think overall, I like Eloise to play by giving the Jade Spirit. I would have been okay with either the Jade Spirit or the Kyrian Tormage, because the thing is, the Arcanologist, it does only get you 1 more secret and then a bunch of 2/2s, but it also thins the deck, which means that Lovelychook is going to be getting closer to Dr. Boom and those Azure Drakes, and potentially Lotheb as well, which would be very, very scary indeed. And so in this situation, okay, it doesn't matter because he manages to rip Dr. Boom off the top. This is a very, very easy play. You can play that down, finish off the 5/3 with the hero power and the Arcanologist. And then unless Eloise can pick up something decent off the Nourish, which she has a very good chance to, things aren't looking perfect for her.
Well, Enervate's actually pretty good here because now she can immediately play what she gets off here.
Definitely not a dead draw.
Well, these are somewhat awkward. More Innervates, which means she can just go with the Wild Growth as well, unless she's looking for her Gadsden. But she has so few cards left at the moment. This is weird for Eloise. The downside of playing, or excuse me, the downside of not going for her hero power to take out the minion last turn is this situation. She wants to absorb obviously the damage. Oops,
right. Yeah. Okay.
So she does the correct order there. Wants to make sure she attacks in with the Jade Spirit first, because it could die off to the Boombot. So the correct ordering here, but yeah, kind of got a little bit punished for being too careful with her life total. Because she could have had more stuff on the board to deal with the Dr. Boom, right? And
That's very true.
Now she's arguably taking more damage by having less of a board here. So.
And this is one of the rare matchups in which you go for double Jade Idol for minions and you still end up having to worry about fatigue, because we have seen Eloise play both Jade Idols already. There are no more left in the deck. So fatigue is definitely going to be an issue as this game progresses, if it gets to that point. However, she is looking to be in a position where maybe she can just start pushing her own damage towards the face. She knows there's actually not that much burst in her opponent's deck. We've seen a Firelands portal. We've seen one Fireball, maybe two. I can't exactly remember how many have been played. But you've still got a decent amount of damage on your board, and you can maybe just set up 2-turn lethal and make your opponent trade instead.
Right. So if she puts her opponent on to 18, she would have obviously the 15 on board. With her hero power to 16, and obviously with the Gadsden she could maybe draw into something.
Right.
But looks like she's just gonna go ahead and try to clear this up. She was facing down lethal from a Fireball, which I believe.
Praying this Boombot doesn't kill off one of these Drakes.
That was really good.
Pretty lucky there. Yeah.
And that is one of the worst draws in if not the worst draw in Lovelychook's deck, because I think that's his last secret, the duplicate.
Yes, all the secrets have gone. I think outside of Kabul Lucky, that was pretty much as bad as it gets in terms of minions. So he is realizing he is absolutely running out of gas. He is going to lose the board from this point on, so he just needs to finish Eloise off.
This is the problem here, again, with Eloise's... The funny thing is, the less you clear off, the more pressure you put on your opponent, the less damage that you're taking, because now Eloise feels, or Lovelychook feels like he has to trade, right?
So here for Eloise, you have to clear off.
And then he
does that close out the game?
Well.
No, it doesn't. Not quite yet.
So 16, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. But she doesn't have a fireball now, so she needs to go face.
Yep. So what's your opponent pushing forward? They're pushing forward 7. You're on 16. Yeah, you're not dead to any single card. So I think you're right. Yep. You just push 2/10 lethal. Easy peasy. Your opponent has to trade or they're dead.
And they can't really.
Eloise realizes
because
this.
your stuff is massive. Maybe she's thinking about like what. Maybe I forgot about like a random Pyroblast in this deck, and she already has plenty of damage for lethal anyway.
Yeah, that's the thing. But you don't even have to think about maybe they can go for Primordial Glyph into Pyroblast, because Lovelychook has omitted the Primordial Glyphs completely from his deck. He does pick up that second Fireball. So this is 7, 8 plus 6, 14 damage altogether, which is 2 off lethal, which just is not going to close out this game.
Yeah, and it's not like, well, he was so close to lethal. I mean, Eloise knew that that's the most damage he could possibly do.
Yes. Yep.
So if she wanted to, she could have traded more. But anyway, that's just going to be it. That is not Ice Block, and Eloise knows it. And Lovelychook can't do anything. He can't clear the board,
So I predicted it at the start. Eloise, I think if she was going to take a win with this Jade Druid, it would be against that Secret Mage, because you have the armor to gain what you need against... Yeah, you did not sort out your hair there.
Yeah, it got worse. It's okay. We'll just forget about it.
You have the armor gain to resist their burst spells in the late game, and it turns out that Eloise had enough removal in the early game to stand up against that pretty fantastically aggressive start from Lovelychook, which means she is left with her Demon Reynad, her N'Zoth Shaman, my favorite deck in the entire tournament so far, and her kind of dude-centric Paladin.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I can join you in liking the N'Zoth Shaman. It feels like it dies all the time.
It's so cool. It's so cool. Reincarnating Kel'Thuzad. That's just awesome. It doesn't matter about winning at that point. You're winning something more than games. It's about honor.
Oh my goodness. All right, well, here we go. Secret Paladin versus Dude Paladin. Yes. And the Secret Paladin is, we've mentioned this a few times, but it's straight out of 2015. There are no new cards in it.
Exactly. You are going to get some truly horrible flashbacks to the League of Explorers era Secret Paladin, which was just so devastating at the time, but we're unsure if it will be so devastating now, because the whisperings you hear of those who play Wild a lot are simply that this Paladin deck that Eloise is bringing is simply the stronger one. The synergy between all these Silverhand recruits and all the Silverhand recruit buffing cards is so strong that it is worth playing it over the notoriously powerful Secret Paladin.
Right, unless you get faced off with this kind of opening here from Lovelychook, where the Secret Keepers are basically the pre-nerf Undertakers on themselves. So yeah, here we go. A couple 2/3s, or 2/3 and 2/2 in this case, but
and not going to be dying either with that noble sacrifice in play. Eloise has left herself with the opportunity to go coin into Consecration on turn 3, which could be exactly what she needs in order to come back in this game. The attack there, I believe, was correct from Eloise, because you're not killing it off, so you don't have any kind of weird avenge shenanigans that can occur. Proccing the Noble Sacrifice is pretty nice as well. However, with the Divine Shield coming down, that massively mitigates the potential power of a Consecration.
Yeah, and good ordering there from Lovelychook, making sure to attack first before he plays the Cog Hammer. And this is where things get sad for Eloise, because she just has to play a Steward of Darkshire without any benefit to it.
Yeah, and this Keeper of Alderman is absolutely perfect to play on curve. Just for the +1/+1 buff, you are absolutely fine going for that to make this trade really, really nice with the Divine Shielded minion.
It's so funny when Keeper of just came out, right? I know I'm talking about 2 years ago, but it was like, because when they were talking about it, like, oh, you can't really fit it in mid-range paladin because there's just too many slots in the do, right? But then people thought, oh, we could just put it in secret paladin and buff up your little guys because they're so sticky.
Yeah, it turns out it's absolutely disgusting, especially when you're running Haunted Creeper in the deck as well as Muster for Battle, all those really notoriously powerful pre-year of the Kraken cards. And now we're still in the situation because of the trades that Lovelychook has decided to make, where that consecration is still complete garbage. But maybe you go for the first one now and follow up with the second one afterwards, just to make sure that you can clear off what's currently on board.
Well, the issue is that she's going to go for this plan, and it's going to lead to just Lovelychook playing Mysterious Challenger on turn 6 after she's finally cleared the board, so that doesn't feel too great.
So the benefit, it's kind of a benefit and a negative of this play from Eloise, is it's by going for the Consecrate on this turn, it feels like you're very, very likely setting up for another Consecrate on the following turn. And Lovelychook realizes this. He's not going all out with the Muster for Battle, which could have been an incredibly aggressive play, potentially just closing out the game if Eloise didn't have the Consecration. But because of that play, so clearly telegraphing that you have a second one to follow up, Lovelychook is holding back. And now, as you said, has the perfect refill in Mysterious Challenger on curve.
So how many... Does he play Repentance?
4 secrets, I believe he's getting. Yep, he gets 1 Noble Sacrifice, 1 Avenge, 1 Redemption,
but not Repentance.
And 1... Yes, he's not running Repentance. So the only secret left in his deck now is an Avenge. This is why Secret Paladin is so good. It's been touted time and time again, but just look at... Like, your deck has just gotten so much better all of a sudden.
Okay, so Eloise playing a bit patient here. Wants to get the massive Sunkeeper value the following turn. Oh my goodness. Goodbye, dudes. It was nice knowing you.
That is so devastating. If Lovelychook can get anyway half decent knives, which he absolutely is getting, absolutely perfect here.
Oh my goodness.
Potentially, left with 1 minion on board. That Sunkeeper Tarim could have been what you needed to pull this game back, but this is 100% over in Lovelychook's favor.
Is there a way to survive with Tyrion or Spikered Steed here? Nope.
No.
The answer is no.
Even if you survive 1 turn, it's just not going to work out because, you could have Spike Seeded the minion up to 7 health, but then the Mysterious Challenger trades perfectly into it, and they're still left with all their secrets in play to finish you off after that. So, nicely done from Lovelychook. Unfortunate for Eloise that it didn't quite work out, but man, those knife jugglers showing why they are truly such a disgusting card, even as a 2/2.
Yeah, it was just unfortunate there for Eloise. If she ever stabilized, she had such crazy synergy in her hand. But that's one of the downsides, obviously, of having decks that rely on synergy, is that sometimes you just don't have the mana to set it up.
So we are going to have to see Lovelychook win just 1 game with his Secret Mage. And maybe I will be correct in saying that it ends up going 0-4, because I believe it is definitely the weak link in his lineup. But from Eloise, we've got the Paladin once again, which is what she's going to line up first, as well as the Demon Reno Lock and the N'Zoth Shaman. Getting a decent enough starting hand here, but once again, Lovelychook is able to nail that Mana Worm on turn 1. He is a fantastic mage player.
No follow-up at the moment, though, so we're going to need some cards off the top to help him out. On this side of Eloise, she kept the, I believe, is that Rallying Blade or Coghammer?
Rallying Blade, yeah.
Right, so she actually...
Come on, mate, learn your art.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. She kept that in her opening hand, actually, strangely enough.
She did. I mean, it's pretty good against a lot of what the Secret Mage is going to be playing on turns 1 or 2, isn't it? Be it Mad Scientist, Arcanologist, or Mana Worm, or even Kirin Tor Mage to an extent. All are pretty fantastic against this potential play in the Mana Worm. And now we can see the potential for a devastatingly powerful turn from Eloise. If this shielded minibot does not have the Divine Shield cleared off, she can clear off both minions with the buff from this Rallying Blade. This is an absolutely fantastic turn that Eloise had, and is absolutely what she needs to come back in this game.
Not playing her on the Rallying Blade for Lovelychook. All right, so Eloise, the reason why she's even considering this, I mean, in a normal world, obviously, you just take the less damage, right? But she's thinking about which one she wants to kill first.
For duplicate, yeah.
And the thing is, Kirin Tor Mage is obviously the bigger minion, but being able to tempo out a couple of Mana Worms is pretty scary, so it's worth considering. It
definitely is. It's basically just a gamble on whether or not your opponent has secrets in hand. And Eloise clearly is thinking, right, I assume they probably don't have that many secrets in hand because you're never going to keep them on the mulligan. And so giving your opponent just a 3-mana 4/3 is a pretty weak card in its own right. But obviously it didn't end up mattering because the duplicate was not the card that was pulled. It was the mirror entity. And all of a sudden, things starting to swing back in Lovelychook's favor. However, you do still have that Rallying Blade to take out a lot of what is on board. And you can even just go for Coin Stand against Darkness if you want to on this turn. And then follow up with the truly disgusting Quartermaster.
Where's your Knife Juggler muster for battle now? Alright, well, Eloise, what is she going to take out here? Just going to take out the Mana Worm. Yeah, might as well just take that guy before it gets too crazy. And
I don't think there's anything that Lovelychook can get here.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's not like he runs Arcane Blast or, Arcane Missile or something like that. But, yeah.
This is so juicy.
Let's see if he decides to take one out. Does decide to take out one of these Silver Recruits, and that's the power of this deck, right? You're forced to just take out dudes instead of pushing damage because you're a bit afraid of that.
Seems to always be the correct play. This mirror entity working out decently well for Lovelychook. You're copying a fairly good minion to say the least, and these trades don't work out perfectly. Exactly. You can attack in a few of these guys to take out the value trades on the Mediz Valet as well as the Quartermaster. But then that Azure Drake is a little bit annoying just to make the trades not quite work out perfectly.
Yeah, you don't need to take out the Azure Drake right now if you're Eloise. By the way, I was going to make this point a few turns ago, but it's kind of funny how Mediz Valet works. Usually you run it in Freeze Mage so you can get the guaranteed value. But in this case, it's interesting because you're incentivizing your opponent to proc your mirror entity or whatever secret is as quickly as possible. So that gives you value very quickly instead of having to wait for have your opponent be patient and wait for the right moment to do it, because then you go, oh well, now I can play my Mediz Valet. But all that aside, Eloise has taken a bit of damage, but looks like she's finally about to stabilize here. Secret comes into place here, so she's probably worried about that counterspell, which would be pretty devastating on one of her minions here, but does see the duplicate, so now she's free to go for something like Spikered Steed.
Makes the absolutely correct play in killing off the Kirin Mage rather than the Azure Drake, because you could obviously rather they have two of those in hand than two Azure Drakes. And now has the opportunity to, as you said, stick that Spike Ridge Steed down on the Quartermaster, which lines up fantastically against that Azure Drake. It would leave you also at one more health than Fireball can deal, so we'd have to see a Fireball and a Ping if you wanted to take that out. But it seems like that's not going to be the play from Eloise, instead setting up for an incredibly powerful
Sunkeeper
Terran play on the following turn, thank you for that, which could deliver almost lethal right away.
It's like, why put my Quartermaster on a big old Stegodon when I can make a bunch of dudes?
Whole bunch of dudes. It turns out that no matter what you're going to do, dudes is probably better. In Hearthstone and in life.
Alright, well, Lovelychook, he sees this and he can kind of see the writing on the wall. It's like, oh, you're going to buff those guys, aren't you?
Yeah. And this is the downside of not running effectively any, or literally running no AoE in your deck. You're not running Blizzard, Flame Strike, Volcanic Potion, Arcane Blast, Arcane Missiles. Any of these cards that see coming in and out of different mage decks just leaves you incredibly vulnerable to plays like this. Because Eloise's deck, the potential vulnerability of it...
That could be lethal.
What do you go for? You go for that, you get +3 attack, and then you're pushing forward 4 times 5, easy lethal if you get plus attack.
Right. I guess it's just safer to go for the Sunkeeper. She could go for attack on the Mad Scientist and heal back the recruit, but then you're potentially
you just don't lose here ever.
Yeah, you don't want to give your opponent a 3/7 Sunkeeper when you're turning your own minions into 3/3s. You basically just kind of emasculate yourself there. So.
There's no real reason even to trade it, to be honest. With no glyphs or flame strikes being run, there's no way to clear the board from Lovelychook. There's no taunts in the deck in Sludge Belcher, and any kind of single target removal in Fireball or Frostbolt will not be able to close out the game. And no matter what that secret is, it's going to be over for Lovelychook, bringing Eloise up to 2 games versus 3, and only leaving her with her Demon Reno Lock and her N'Zoth Shaman.
Yeah, looking at the Secret Mage, you can see the reason why people play it, and because it's just so annoying when you get all the secrets out, especially for super cheap and get those temple plays out. But then we're seeing the weaknesses right now, right? It gets behind, you can't come back, and if they're able to deal with your secrets, then you lose the game.
And if you are going to build a deck that needs to get ahead and can't come back, you're kind of going about it in the right way because you've got Cabal Lackey in there and you've got a whole bunch of really powerful tempo cards in the early game. But there's just some obvious anti-synergy going on. You've got the Mad Scientist to pull the secrets from your deck, but then you also kind of want to draw them with your Arcanologist. The secrets you have are usually going to be popped pretty quickly, so the potential value for Medivh's Valet is massively reduced. You have the potential just to draw a whole bunch of your secrets in your early hand because you're drawing so many, because you're playing so many of them. There's a lot that can go wrong.
Yeah, I guess they're kind of like contingency plans, right? If you draw the secrets and the Mad Scientist, like, well, at least I can play them for cheap.
Yeah.
But yeah, this particular matchup is pretty interesting because if you can get the right secrets down, for instance, a counterspell right before your opponent wants to go for some AoE clear, or perhaps you get a Mirror Entity down right before turn 4, which is when your opponent wants to be, playing some massive minion, then you're going to be in a pretty good spot as Lovelychook here. But at least there's a few things to kind of mitigate both counterspell and the Mirror Entity here by playing things like this Tar Creeper or Imp King Boss, for instance.
Right, yeah, exactly. If you can play down Tar Creeper into a Mirror Entity, that's obviously a very unaggressive option that your opponent is stealing. However, on this turn, she's clearly thinking, right, do I want to go for the... Yeah, exactly. She's thinking, do I go for the line of play where I amass as many cards as possible, perhaps go for Twilight Drake, Mountain Giant, things like that on the following turns, or do I go for the more Zoo-ish style approach where I just play my minions on curve? And if she does want to go for that, she has what she needs already in hand. She's got Imp Gang Boss this turn, Tar Creeper following turn, and then because of the nature of Imp Gang Boss, she's very likely to have a couple of minions to stick that Defender of Argus on after that all goes off.
Right, and she was also a bit afraid of, Lovelychook flooding the board. She didn't have any AoE in hand, so I guess all things considered, this is probably the correct play. Her hand is just full of stuff that you want to play in a Mirror Entity. By the way, it's like, oh,
it's
here,
true.
have a 1/5, have a 2/3, have a 3/3. It's like I get the good side of things and you do not. All right, we see his counterspell, and he plays a duplicate as well, so doesn't really matter. For Eloise here, she can just attack in and then play her Tar Creeper if she feels like it's Mirror Entity. I feel she probably should attack first, even though it's not. We know it's not going to matter, but just
exactly. She's ordering this correctly just for the potential of a Mirror Entity. There's a decent chance that it is because 2 out of the 3 secrets being run by Lovelychook have been played, but she can see that it's not going to be that, so she knows exactly what these 2 secrets are in a counterspell and a duplicate. And now for Lovelychook. He's got some interesting options. Obviously, playing the Ethereal Arcanist while you have a secret up feels pretty good, especially as a 5/5 actually is statted fantastically to deal with whatever Eloise has on board at the moment. And then on the following turn, you can follow up with Mirror Entity played and then play the Cabal Crystal Runner or Mirror Entity into the Medivh's Valley or even just Lotheb itself. A few fantastic options to go for.
So the Ethereal Arcanist had to die if you're Eloise. That guy just gets bigger and bigger. It's not a card you see very often, but it is pretty devastating if it ever is allowed to grow. So Eloise had the perfect way to deal with it. Mortal Coil to get rid of the counterspell, use the Shadow Bolt instead. And Lovelychook now going for the Mirror Entity so he can get the Crystal Runner out here. By the way, very smart play for Lovelychook to hold back on the Mirror Entity until now because he read that since Eloise went coin into 3-drop, she probably had another 3-drop. So he said, I don't really want to just copy a 3-drop. I'd
rather copy a 2-drop in Defender of Argus.
Right, but it could have potentially gotten the Sludge Belcher here, so certainly makes sense for him.
Yeah, absolutely. There's much more powerful cards being run in the 5-mana slot in the Sludge Belcher, and is she running... No Lotheb, but could have been a Doom Guard given that this is the Demon variant, obviously, and you're not going to be playing an Antique Healbot on turn 5 when you're already at maximum health. So now another secret being drawn, which is exactly what Lovelychook needs in order to make this hand pop. So you really want to be using this very conservatively. You want to save that so that you can get value out of either your Medivh's Valet or your Ethereal Arcanist, preferably both on the same turn, because you know that counterspell is very likely to be popped quite soon after it's played.
I think that Lovelychook just has to play a 4-mana 3/3 here. Feels bad, but it does kind of do pretty well against this board because remember that the Tar Creeper is actually a 2/6.
Yeah. You could Frostbolt instead down the Defender of Argus and then play Medivh's Valet. You're only getting a 2/3 rather than a 3/3, and you're also getting out the 3 damage from Frostbolt. So that probably does work out a little bit better, but obviously the clunkier card in your hand is the Ethereal Arcanist.
Right, looks like he is just going to go for the Frostbolt here. And the Medivh's Valet. I just think that, that Medivh's Valet is so much value. You get essentially a Frostbolt out of it. And you can easily just play the counterspell next turn.
I guess you're just thinking, though, if you can get 1 or even 2 Ethereal Arcanists down while there's a secret in play, that's just how you're going to snowball a victory.
Well, on the side of Eloise, she does pick up the Abyssal Enforcer here, which makes things nice. Now your Belcher is actually kind of doing something instead of just dying simply to the Crystal Runner.
And this is starting to look already like another game where the Secret Mage is just going to run out of stuff to do. The Reno Lock is obviously not going to be running out of stuff to do anytime soon because you've already got a fantastic turn 7 and 9 play in the Enforcer and the Mal'Ganis.
And you have Life Tap. You have the best hero power in the game, and she's at 30 health. So.
Yeah, that's exactly it. The downside of tapping is basically nothing because your health total doesn't matter at all when you have Mal'Ganis to completely negate that potentially and the antique heal bot to heal up afterwards. So, yeah, things starting to look very, very nicely for Eloise indeed.
Alright, so Eloise just pushes the face here. This has nothing really to do with her trying to kill her opponent. It just, doesn't want to take the trade with the Medivh's Valet and make things easier for her opponent here. Especially because she's pretty sure that the Abyssal Enforcer is coming down next turn. Dr. Boom is the pickup here for Lovelychook, so that is one of the ways he can potentially steal a victory, is to ride this tempo.
Yeah, and that's the only way he's really going to be winning this. He has to win this game, as it always seems, soon. It always finds himself in the point where if you don't win soon, you're not going to be winning at all, which is kind of why I think with the way he built this deck, you want to take out a couple of those secrets and put in more burn because you're getting the early game aggression fairly consistently, but he's not getting the damage he needs to close it out after the fact.
Do the Boombots kill the Abyssal Enforcer?
No.
Here we go.
Oh, this game is so dumb.
Oh, there's 3. Oh, never mind. Just kidding.
There we go.
They were suspenseful, though. The Boombots were like, where'd I get it? Oh, just kidding.
Oh, with the Frostbolt being picked up, that 3 damage does actually make a pretty decent amount of difference.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact that it was 3 and not 2 means that he can play out the Lothab as well. So, yeah, things looking okay. Not the greatest, but wow, that is a nice pickup. So, tap into Thorsian seems great. She's not going to die. Everything is cheap. Everything is happy.
Everything is awesome. And then you can just follow up with Mal'Ganis, potentially on turn 10, actually, because then you can go Mal'Ganis tap for a no damage hero power. And then on this turn, if things get out of hand, you just rip the Twisting Nether. You're obviously afraid of counterspell, so maybe you don't go for that. But even if you don't, you can just go for the Kazakus on this turn, and the 3/3 body is actually pretty nice to deal with this, especially with the Blast Crystal Potion can be used to take out the Ethereal Arcanist completely, and then you're just in such a nice spot.
I think you just might go for Mal'Ganis, but maybe not.
Really?
Oh, I guess it could be Mirror Entity. Wait, has he played both Mirror Entities? I guess, okay, he hasn't, so. Alright, so she's concerned about what the secret is, obviously. She knows that the last card in hand is the Ethereal Arcanist, so I suppose if she's worried about Mirror Entity, then she goes for the Kazakus. She can Kazakus tap Healbot as well, all on the same turn. So
that's a good point. If you're afraid, the thing is, even if you're afraid of it being a counterspell, playing the Blast Crystal Potion isn't that bad because it gets rid of the secret, which means that this Ethereal Arcanist is stuck as a 5/5 rather than growing to a 7/7.
Well, I think what she's going to do here is just get this Kazakus out and then just do the play that I mentioned, right? Play a couple of 3/3s. And then next turn she gets the counterspell out of the way with the Demon Wrath. Or Demon Fire.
And then you Twisting Nether.
Yeah, and then Twisting Nether, yeah. Because everything's cheap and everything's good.
Yeah, that seems to be the play that she is going for. And getting the counterspell on, a lot of these Warlock minions, it removes the downside of it because if it gets countered, you're not discarding a card with Soulfire. You're not removing a Mana Crystal with Blast Crystal. So some pretty nice options. And here you can see Lovelychook massively loading up onto the board, just praying that there's no form of AoE removal from Eloise. And we can see that there will be. which just puts Lovelychook in a devastatingly poor position.
Right, he's either hoping there's no removal or there's no way to get rid of the counterspell first, and unfortunately there's a great way for Eloise to go about this.
I have to say again, I saw someone having a go at me in chat. I'm sorry for saying devastating once again. It is just the best word in the English dictionary, and that is why I use it so often.
And we do not speak in hyperbole here at all. Everything we say is absolutely 100% true all the time.
110% true. No hyperbole.
All right, well, goodbye, board. Duplicate
Indeed.
into...
Oh,
well,
okay.
Well, that's not that great, though, because he doesn't have secrets for the following.
Maybe you draw them, though. It's something. It's one of the better cards you could get at this point, considering the caliber of what the rest of your deck is.
Eloise is at 28 health, though. So.
That's true. Yeah, on the coming turns, Cruel is such a good card to play. It's unfortunate that the Soulfire doesn't take out the Ethereal Arcanist. Obviously, otherwise you could quite easily go for Cruel into Soulfire. And now that Jaraxxus is being played, you probably don't even want to play it for the Battle Cry, because that brings you down to a maximum 15 health. So then you maybe open yourself up to burst damage closing out the game. But pulling out with Cruel Unshackled, a 315 is pretty good.
All right, 5 damage, 7 armor. She knows that this isn't counterspell because he's already dealt with both of them.
Mm-hmm.
And there goes the duplicate. The thing about these Ethereal Arcanists is they're so clunky, right? Because you can't, even if he picks up a spell right here, even if he picks up a secret, I mean, he can't play both of them, right? So
exactly.
It's gonna go this out.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. They would cost 8 mana. That's true. But now they just die perfectly to Hellfire. If you even want to go for that, maybe you can just afford to go straight up for Cruel. Yeah, you're just going to close out the game next turn, aren't you? With Hellfire and Soulfire for burst damage, there's just no way you lose here.
Cruel. Look at this board. Oh my goodness.
Oh, with the buff from Mal'Ganis as well. This is truly ridiculous.
And arguably discards the perfect card here as well. And that's just going to be it. Eloise is going to take the game, and this Secret Mage seems very impotent.
I am 3/4 of the way to a fantastic prediction as to how this series is going to go. He has lost 3 games so far with his Secret Mage, and all Eloise needs to do now is win a game with her N'Zoth Shaman. She was potentially saving this matchup till the end because she thinks it's the worst one, and therefore wanted to get her good matchups out the way and get herself the best win-loss differential that she possibly can. Looking at the way that it's worked, you've got stuff working in your favor. You run a good amount of removal. Double Maelstrom, double Lightning, double Devolve, double Volcano. Fairly standard in all of these control Shaman decks that we're seeing. And you're also running a decent amount of heal in the 2 healing waves. But if you don't find these early removal spells, you could find yourself in a position where you are simply run over in the early game with Mana Worms and Mad Scientists.
There's also the matter to consider that you probably need multiples of all of your cheap spells, because otherwise it might be counterspelled.
Oh yeah, very true.
So yeah, that's something that always needs to consider. Probably just have some mulligan for all removal at once. And wow, that this is basically what Lovelychook got him when he brought the deck, right? Like 1 time out of 4, it's gonna just high roll, and this might be that game.
Oh, it's so ridiculous though, because he's got these starts consistently, but he's still consistently losing. You have to think. I mean, obviously you can't change your deck list halfway through the tournament, but he has to be thinking there is something fundamentally wrong with my deck if I am drawing Mana Worm into Mad Scientist consistently, which is unlikely to happen, and I am still ending up losing these matches.
Yeah, at that point you feel like you might as well just run, Tempo Mage. So.
Exactly.
Alright, well, here we go. Mana Worm Mad Scientist. Not a whole lot of pushback here from Eloise unless she wants to pull the trigger and devolve right away.
Yeah, that's probably not what you want to be going for. You're going to be making either a 1/1 or a 0/2 taunt on the Mana Worm, and you're obviously denying the pull of a secret from the Mad Scientist, which is pretty nice, but you probably want to catch at least 1 or 2 more things in the devolve before you go for that, because if you just hero power, the Mad Scientist isn't going to be dying, so you can just follow up with a devolve in the following turns instead.
Unless it's a Searing Totem and Lovelychook pings off his own Mad Scientist.
And then you just laugh to yourself because you're playing against a literal potato.
That's a pretty talented potato. I don't know. She's going for the devolve.
Oh my lord.
Wow.
Okay. So there is the obvious upside to this play. You can see why she's going for it, denying a secret, because this deck from Lovelychook is so dependent on having a secret in play, given that we're running the Ethereal Arcanist, the Medivh's Valets, all this good stuff that works so perfectly with the secrets. But given how many secrets are being played, there's a decent chance that there's one in hand, or there is an archanologist or a mad scientist in play. So it does mitigate the amount of early pressure that's coming through, but you have the volcano in hand to get rid of that.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good indeed.
This is going to be interesting because we might see Lovelychook play out the duplicate, and then Eloise has to just hope that it's probably not Mirror Entity. There's stuff for her to do, so maybe she just kind of plays around it. But we see that if the duplicate is played, it doesn't affect Eloise's super play next turn at all.
Yeah.
Neither a counterspell on the Ancestral Spirit and not on the Mirror Entity on the Earth Elemental as well.
That's exactly true, but the bluff factor of secrets is so incredibly powerful against Eloise's turn here, because two of the plays she could consider going for in the Earth Elemental Ancestral Spirit, obviously the most powerful one, or even just Lightning Storm to clear off these guys, both would be pretty poor against be it either Mirror Entity or Counterspell.
You get overloaded if you get Counterspelled, right? Because it uses your mana.
I actually don't know. I could not tell you.
It would have to be the case, right? Because it eats up your mana, right?
I don't think so, because you play the mana for the card, but the card isn't actually played, and the overload is part of the card. So I think it would probably not work out that way.
I think even if this is Mirror Entity, then you give your opponent a 7/8, but you get two 7/8s. If this is Counterspell, you get the 7/8, and your opponent counters the Ancestral Spirit. That said, if you do think it's Counterspell, maybe you want to wait until turn 7 to guarantee that you have that going for you. But I think it's too juicy to pass up right here. I think you should just go for it.
You are obviously
Counterspell's the
correct.
worst. I think Counterspell's the worst here.
Yeah. It is, because that's denying you a 7/8, but in giving your opponent a 7/8, it gives them such fantastic chance to fight back against your own one, and this is clearly just wreaking havoc with Eloise's thinking so much, but I think in the end she will just end up going with the Earth Elemental. Oh my lord!
That could have just won her the game if she did that.
Yeah, 100%.
Maybe she's just thinking, I definitely don't want to get... Oh, now there's the Mirror Entity, and he can go for Mirror Entity into the Cabal Crystal Runner. Ouch.
Oh, so unfortunate for Eloise.
Well, you have to kind of blame her a little bit here as well, right? Because...
But look at it from her perspective. If it is Mirror Entity, that's so bad giving them an Earth Elemental. If it is Counterspell, it's so bad giving them an Ancestral Spirit to completely deny it. And you have to feel like it's more likely that it's one of those two spells than Duplicate. But maybe you just have to assume it is. You're not in the best spot here, are you? And now the Ethereal Arcanist is going to be actually a pretty massive threat against these Earth Elementals.
The thing for Eloise though is she looked at the board and said, "Nah, I can be patient." But the instant you're patient is the instant you're giving your opponent leeway to do something like this, right? So
yeah.
And now she feels like now she's like, "Oh crap! Now my opponent does have a big board. Maybe I do have to just take a chance and go for it."
I can almost hear the cogs grinding at Eloise's brain from here. She is thinking so hard, thinking emoji. Even in her picture, she's doing an impression of the thinking emoji, you can see.
It obviously feels so bad going for the exact same play that you passed up last turn, but
yeah,
I think she just kind of has to. Okay, well, she's going to go with a Volcano. Realize it's not Counterspell, but she's going to put another spell on the field, though. Duplicate, pulls back the Wisp.
Justice.
And now Counterspell is in the way, so she's not going to be able to get the Ancestral Spirit off. And so now there's a Mirror Entity and there's a Counterspell, so she can do neither of these things.
So in this position, you would get a 7/8, but so would they, and you would not get the Death Rattle on it because you only have 5 mana, so you can only activate it, this Counterspell, with this Ancestral Spirit. And now this is looking decidedly worse for Eloise. She could go for, if she really thinks this is a Counterspell, she could potentially go for Ancestral Spirit on one of your opponent's minions just to get the Counterspell out of the way, and then follow up with a Lightning Storm, hopefully with a Hero Power Spell Totem as well.
Yeah, that seems to be the play here. And you do it on the Wisp, so even if you made a mistake, you're still kind of okay. But I hate to keep bashing on Eloise, but here's the thing. If you don't go for the Earth Elemental Ancestral Spirit that turn, your opponent probably picks up that secret pretty soon anyway, and then you just can't do it regardless. So that's the issue here.
It seems to be that is the play she's leaning towards. If she can clear up this board, she's actually looking in a fantastic spot. So whether or not this is a counterspell, yep, she sees it. It seems like this is probably the best line of play. You need to get this board cleared up as soon as possible. But it seems she wants to save and go for double Lightning Storm instead.
Alright, well, she does not win the joust, but she wasn't going to get the full healing anyway. This denies her 3 healing, in a sense, and she's facing down 14, 20 damage. And there's Dr. Boom. No room, though.
No room for the boom.
But probably just has to do it anyway. If you're Lovelychook, this might be your best chance. I mean, you just need the tempo, right?
I think even with one boom bot, Dr. Boom is still a perfectly reasonable play, and then you can follow up, hopefully, with just killing. Wow, he doesn't think it's worth it. Afraid of clear?
Yeah, afraid of something like a Hex plus clear or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, here we go. Both these players kind of giving their opponents a lot of wiggle room here. Needs to get 3 at one time. Does get the 3 the first time, so this board is going to get cleared.
And this just felt really weird from Eloise throughout. Even if you know, as you said, even if you are afraid of certain secrets, going for the healing wave on the previous turn, I didn't like. I'd rather you get the Lightning Storm down and hopefully clear off a few of those minions, because now you don't have any healing and you are vulnerable to burst. But yeah, getting the is there a counter spell up, or no? There's not. That's a glitch in the. Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's
cool.
Mirror Entity. So she is going to just draw through her deck, which means she is going to die because Lovelychook has enough damage. Well, that was kind of anticlimactic. Felt kind of awkward.
Unbelievably close there at the end. Eloise had so many cards. If she could just survive a little bit longer in order to come back in this game, she just needed that little bit more healing to stabilize her health total. And I was almost correct. The Secret Mage so nearly going 0-4, but just managing to creep back in that final game, meaning that Lovelychook is able to take down the series, bringing him to 2 games and 2 losses overall in terms of series, and Eloise also at 2 games and 2 losses.
Yeah, I think it's pretty safe to say that if she went with the Earth Elemental and Ancestral Spirit, she just wins the game. Because instead of putting 14, 16 of stats on the board, she played a hero power. So
yeah.
And the thing is, I know we keep bashing her for this, and so it's easy to say, like, oh, casters, you can see your cards. You can see the cards, so obviously, you know, it's easy for you to say. But I just, going through, like, if it was this secret, it's like, if it was duplicate, it's amazing, right? If it's mirror entity, it's like kind of okay. Like maybe you kind of get punished, but not really, because at least you're doing something. You're putting more board on than they are.
Yeah,
and if it's counter spell, it's the same thing. You're putting more board on the field than they are, and you're getting rid of the counter spell now rather than having a counter spell later. So it just felt like, and the other thing is, she probably was waiting till turn 7 to play the Earth Elemental, and then the Ancestral Spirit said, like, I need to have this value. I need to have this, be in the way at some point. But then she ended up playing Volcano, and she never actually got to that point. So it just felt like she gave her opponent more time to prevent, to put the thing on the field that she was afraid of being in there in the first place. But
and here's the other thing: terrible personal hygiene, a rubbish tipper, so many other terrible things about Eloise.
Yeah, okay.
I'm of course joking.
Well, this is the result of our second match of the day. Both matches going 4-3. And that means that Lovelychook will, I believe, now go to the third spot.
Third spot, yeah. I think Eloise is still a little bit higher in terms of win-loss because she had some pretty nice victories over her opponents. She lost, and the one game she did lose prior to Xixo was 3-4 as well. So she's only lost series by a maximum of 1 game, and I think she's won a couple of others pretty decisively.
All right, well, we're taking a look at our results for today. Like I mentioned earlier, 4-3 for Reynad. He finishes in last place, but takes home at least the $1,000 for defeating Zhangbo here. And Lovelychook, with the ability to get that win with the Secret Mage, finally is able to pick up the $1,000 for this one. So both players on the bottom here receiving $2,000 total for this stage of the tournament. And you see our standings: Xixo, Eloise, Zhangbo, and Lovelychook. Actually, so Lovelychook is below Zhangbo. Interesting.
Yeah, so Zhangbo and Eloise ending up drawing in the end. I can't remember how. Well, Eloise actually won against Zhangbo, didn't she? So she will probably be seeded higher, as we can see, because she is in second place. I think it's probably the decider.
So it looks like I made an error earlier talking about the seeding. So I assume that Xixo is going to be playing against Lovelychook and Eloise is going to be playing against Shangbo when they do eventually go to Shanghai on the 2nd and 3rd. And here are our rules. Best of 5 for the semifinals, best of 7 for the finals, 8,000 the first, 6,000 the second, 4,000 the third, and 2,000 to 4th place. And the way this works is they're given decks, they're given classes, excuse me, and they have to build the decks right then and there in front of everyone. So that's going to be interesting to watch. Make sure you tune in to, I believe we're just going to be casting it right here on Tempo Storm on the 2nd and 3rd, and I think that starts at 4 p.m. Chinese time, though I can't look because it would cover you. So anyway.
I don't even want to think of what time of day that is for me.
Well, these have been starting 1 p.m. Chinese time, so think about 3 hours.
Oh, it's a bit later. Oh, that's fine then. Brilliant.
Yeah.
9 o'clock start. A lion.
Nice. Well, we're just watching Tiddler and his co-caster talk it out right now. We are basically done here, unless you want to just like chat it up. What do you want to talk about, Derek?
Well, thank you once again for bringing me on to cast this, and Tempo Storm for letting us host this on their channel. Really cool to see these wild decks. I wasn't too much keeping up with the when everyone was playing wild for obviously the heroic Tavern Ball and trying to get that top 64 for the upcoming wild format. But overall, some really, really cool decks we've seen so far. Unfortunately, Eloise's Shaman didn't perform quite as well as we were hoping for. But other decks like, Reynad's Parrot Quest Rogue was really cool, and all kinds of other stuff. And also all kinds of other really boring stuff in 2015 Secret Paladin. Come on, Lovelychook, spice it up.
Bring some new cards, come on. What do you
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so you saw like their different strategies work out in like the way that they kind of envisioned, right? Lovelychook was able to get a lot of wins with his aggressive decks before Eloise was finally able to pick up with the Druid. The Shaman just ended up being like the last deck, so it feels bad that it was the one deck that the Secret Mage got past, but it only lost once, I believe, so it wasn't really like the problem deck, I suppose.
Yeah, and it's, obviously it's unfortunate, and probably, if you do want to argue it, built a bit incorrectly from Eloise, because the Reincarnate and Kel'Thuzan package, it's so greedy, and it is going to like almost guarantee you a win against some of these control decks, but we're not really seeing control decks so much as aggro decks and anti-control decks, because you're seeing Jade Druid a fair amount, Quest Rogue brought by Reynad, but not too many actual control decks that you're going to look to be killing instead. All the Paladins are fairly aggressive.
The way she built her lineup, though, I mean, we saw, I think that Reynad went for anti-control, and then she actually went for a better way to go anti-control, because all her decks seemed like they would completely destroy control, and yet she was able to almost beat, a full set of aggro decks. But we are getting out of here, guys. Thank you again for watching. We're just going to cut it off and not do anything special. But I'm going to upload these to YouTube. I was only able to upload half of yesterday's match. For some reason, if you try to download one of the videos, it only downloads the audio. It's bizarre. But
That's annoying.
you'll see like 80% of the matches on YouTube, so go to my YouTube if you want to check that out later. Watch in 2 times speed. And anyway, we'll see you guys later. Thanks for watching.